Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 9th day of September 2024, and welcome to our show. Got a hard start this morning, and I got to tell you, I'm going to bring Stanley in right away. Morning, Stanley. How you doing?
Good morning. Great to be back again.
Yeah, it's always good to see you. Today was one of those days where I had a million, and I mean a million things going on my plate this morning. So all of a sudden I looked up from sending emails and I'm like, oh no, it's time to get on. So here we are today. So what's happening in Stanley World? There's so much going on down there in Palm Beach. Can you give us an update?
There's a lot happening. Last week Jeff and I attended the Roger Stone Republican dinner, and I got to meet Roger Stone. I got an autographed book by him, some pictures. I got to hear him speak, and I get to meet a lot of other people involved in the political end of it down here. They're really nice people, and my path is on a spiritual path of substance abuse to help people get clean and sober, and I found myself once again, talking to a lot of people in politics about the problem in our country. And, everywhere I go to a lot of places. I try to attend as many political functions as I can. And I never hear anyone that much speak about the problem in society in America. You hear about the fentanyl coming in and, border security, but the actual problem that's from house to house, from person to person, the individual person, I meet people on a very personal level in the work I do. And, I see the impacts clearly, profoundly, of how, this drug epidemic in our country is taking its toll on society. And it's terrible. It's sad, and people are dying out there. And I feel there's not enough being done and not enough awareness being brought to the younger minds in the educational system, as well as in politics. Because one thing that's a problem is the stigma. This disease of addiction, it doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter how much money you have, what color your skin is, doesn't matter what kind of degree you have. I met some of the smartest people, politicians, law enforcement, judges, and you know what? I didn't have a successful education in my life, but there's one thing I'm successful at today, and it's living a life clean and sober. Like I said, I've met a lot of smart people that are so smart they couldn't stop drinking and using drugs, and they struggle today. But getting back to the stigma end of it, a lot of people, they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to look at the truth, because it's very embarrassing for them. It's shameful. And mostly everyone I've met so far, they either have a friend or a loved one that suffers from this problem. And it doesn't just impact the individual. It impacts the entire families, the households, the lives of so many. Including myself, at one time, I used to say, how can I be hurting anyone else? I'm putting the substances in my body. If I'm hurting anyone, I'm only hurting myself. Mind your business. But that's the part where it plays. The minute someone puts an addictive substance in their body, it hijacks their mind and it dictates their behavior. It becomes a compulsion and they become powerless. It's like being possessed by a demon. Once someone starts, they can't stop. And that's where the problem is. And you know what? It's a big problem in society. And, I don't hear too many people, politicians who have, really good knowledge and speak about the problem. They go by what their advisors tell them or what they see on TV, the information that's out there, public information, and they try to sound good. But
it's all crafted. Everything that they say, it comes out of their mouth. Somebody else
there's a lot of everything scripted.
Yep.
People are more worried about how they sound and how they look with their images on TV and, the work they do. I bring you the truth.
Well, I hate to say it, but it's like when I watch most politicians, all they look like to me is puppets. And somebody's got their hand up their rear end and they're moving their mouth for them because they can't. That's why none of them go live, because they can't talk about anything because they don't have any knowledge. And somebody's not there telling them what to say. They've all got that going on. And it's not just the left side; it's the right side. They're all doing the same thing, and they're not talking about real problems or solutions. So one of the things that I kind of put my finger on a long time ago was the issue of suicide. Okay, I have had people close to me that when I was younger that did commit that accomplished a suicide, and the people that I know that have committed suicides or have accomplished suicides, as well as a lot of people that are into drugs, I see them as extraordinarily sensitive individuals. They're very sensitive. Some of the people that I've met, probably most of the people that I've met in the circles of those that are considered very, very successful, they're kind of soulless. Not all of them, but quite a few of them are soulless because they don't see human beings as human beings. They just see it as a way to get their success. And that's a big problem. The people that I see that are, into any type of addiction, I see that as really bad coping skills. You could put it in something that would be more positive for sure. But I kind of understand potentially, maybe not entirely, at least part of it of masking some of the problems or some of the hurts that comes along with this world, and that's a way to dull the pain. So it's unfortunate. That's a bad coping skill. It's not a good idea. And like you said, once they get into it, that demon won't let go of you. The better plan is to go and find somebody else that's hurting and try to help them out of their pain, and you'll help yourself.
Pretty much, when you start putting your hand out helping people, and it's in the beginning stages of your recovery, from my own personal experience, the more people I started helping, it was like holding a mirror in front of my face. As I helped them find solutions to their problems, I found solutions to my own problems. But you look at what happens when an individual starts using drugs or substances. Getting back to what I said earlier, it hijacks the mind, but it actually hijacks every part of that person's life, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. This is. When I speak at facilities, I tell people, I'm like, the most important thing Stan had to learn how to change about himself in recovery was everything, and that's a lot, But I deal with a lot of people, and the suicide rate is extraordinarily high, and a lot of people are not going to make it. They struggle so bad, and a lot of people become more suicidal. Like even I found myself in the beginning of my early days of recovery, where I wasn't drinking, I wasn't using drugs anymore. I was about a year in, and life just sucked. It's like I felt like I lost my best friend. In recovery, we talk about triggers. Like it could be music, it could be a smell. People, places, and things that trigger someone to want to have a drink. I speak about how I look at my photo album, and I can look back from the day of my birth, birthday parties, weddings, funerals, anniversaries, vacations, family gatherings. And with all my friends and family, as I look at his photo album that's in chronological order, I could see my birthday cakes with ashtrays around it, cans of beer. And I look at my family and friends through the years, and everybody has a drink in their hand. So the disease of addiction was always there, and it's part of culture in America now. There was some great books and great stories, over a cold beer, since the beginning when we colonized, America. But if you really get in depth and you really break it down to the raw logic, like I said, it's the spiritual end of it. It's you become bankrupt. You're replacing what God has given you, your body, mind, and soul, with a crutch that I consider it, to fill an internal void. And these are the things you look at when somebody gets into the abstinence part and they start putting these addictive substances in their body. The first thing that happens is they detox physically, and usually, hopefully, most of the time, the next part of the phase is their conscience comes back, and they look at themselves, and they look at how these substances affected and impacted every choice and decision in their life, from relationships to their education, to their professional life, to their finances, to their health. This disease takes everything and it gives back nothing. This disease wants people dead. And that's where I come in and I help people identify, the drugs and alcohol is one thing, but when we take that away and you get some time and you start getting your marbles back upstairs, you start to learn the truth. And that's what recovery does. It teaches you the truth about how you live in your life in a disease. And it teaches you the truth about yourself. You're like, why am I doing this to myself? Usually there's an underlying issue. A lot of people I work with, it stems back to childhood trauma or childhood abuse.
What kind of abuse do you see that's really
rape, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. There's a lot of different.
That's just rampant out there with right now. That is a rampant issue. The sickness that adults have passed on to children. It's sad. And the parenting skills out there are absolutely horrific. Just unbelievable. Push your kids off on everybody else, but take no responsibility to raise them. What do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? You have to spend time with people, and you should spend the most amount of time with your children.
Right. It goes back to what I say, show me your friends and family and I'll tell you who you are. You become a product of your environment. But a lot of individuals, there's people who come from really good parents and they come from really good, beautiful families, but they experimented and they got addicted to these substances. And, it's different for everybody, but it's the same for everybody as well. I can predict anyone's future if they use it. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. And the most important part is to remove the person from the environment and from the toxic substances that they're putting in their body. By doing that, they become teachable again. So that they're capable of learning the truth about how they were living, to see the truth, how these substances were affecting their life, and be active in recovery, remaining teachable and learning solutions to build a defense against relapse and to identify these negative behaviors that people need to change about themselves. Because when people stop using drugs and alcohol, their brain's rewired, and they used to live in life a certain way. They used to deal with their emotions a certain way. All the choices, decisions, their life coping skills, they're not on par. So this is where I come in and I help people rebuild themselves. It's like you have your computer and your computer gets a virus, right? So what do? You gotta reset it. You gotta wipe the hard drive clean. You gotta put the program back in. This way it functions properly, the right way. Everything's structured and working in order. It's basically the same thing. The mind is a powerful tool. And when you put these substances in your body, it screws everything up. It becomes like a virus in a computer. So you need to wipe it clean and rebuild it over again, but not the old way. A lot of people, they look at what they lost, the relationships that they screwed up and burned. I lost my job, my career. I have a criminal record now. Let me teach you how to let go of your old self. And it's kind of like being reborn. And now we're going to rebuild a better version of you that's going to be more productive and successful in life. But first, people need to get honest with themselves and admit that they have a problem, because, if you have that little bit of denial in you, it's pretty much going to be short-lived.
What does that typically look like? Like if you're going through the process of teaching them to rebuild themselves, letting go of the past and then moving into the future, what does that really look like?
It's a struggle for many. It was a struggle for myself. It's like this. How can you help somebody if you can't give something you don't have? You either got it or you don't have it. And the knowledge I have and the abilities, I learned through trial and error. Some theory from studies. School and education only goes so far in this field of work. But I'm the real deal. I had to learn on my own through trial and error what works for me. Some people out there are like, yeah, I love drugs, I love alcohol. I loved it too, but nobody could love it as much as I did at one time. Just like I can't love it as much as they did at one time, or still do. You understand what I'm saying to you? But it's a struggle like anything else in life. Nobody said life is easy, and many come and few are chosen. And this is the path God put me on, and I feel in my heart and in my soul, it's my calling. I down here in Florida, in Palm Beach, it's like the rehab capital of the world. Back up north in Jersey City, I could throw a rock in any direction and land at the foot of a drug dealer or a crack house or something like that. Or, down here, I could throw a rock in any direction. It'll land by an AA meeting, a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, a rehab, a detox, some type of facility. So I get to meet a lot of people down here. It's like a hub of the United States down here for me, and I'll be honest with you, Donna, I get more out of it personally, and I experience a lot of growth by all the people I meet down here. But no matter where I've been, and I've been through almost every state in this country, working in the field of substance abuse, and I've been to so many different facilities, it's the same problems everywhere. It's this different places, different faces, but this drug it's like a curse on our country, and it's slowly taking its toll. And there's not enough awareness. There's not enough people out there on the streets filming. Like in Philadelphia, there's parts of Philadelphia. You pretty much go to any city in any state in America, you're gonna find a bad part of town somewhere where there's homeless drug addicts laying around in the street, same clothes on probably for 30 years. And it's sad. This is America. We're not supposed to be like this. Yeah, and there's nobody out there helping these people. These facilities, they get funding, they get grant money from the government, and they turn into these revolving doors. And I
what are they doing wrong? I mean, what's the biggest thing that they're doing wrong? That
I honestly believe, from my own experience, and I'm out there. I'm like people who work in politics. Investigative news journalists. They're up in faces. They're pulling information on these bad politicians. I'm out there. I'm in the faces. I'm in the facilities, and speaking with the owners and management of these facilities. Like, what's the real problem here? How come you have a low success rate, and why is it like a revolving door? I'll tell you why it's like that. Because it's all about the money.
Yes.
They want that insurance payment. They want to do it. They want to keep the numbers high. And you know what? If they get people clean and sober successfully, what are they doing? You run out of people who don't have drug problems anymore.
It's the same thing as cancer and all these other things that are high dollar NGOs. I don't believe that they're there to solve the problem.
No, it's part of the machine. The drug problem in America is part of the machine. It fuels the judiciary system. The bail bondsmen are making money. The prisons are making money. The morgues are making money. The rehabs, the detoxes, the drug dealers are making money. And, it fills the city's court. Everybody's making money off the souls of people. And, we're paying a high price, for what's going on in America. And, I stand firm on my belief that a clean and sober America is a productive America that contributes to the growth and prosperity of our country. Just like our elections, we got Jeff out there and a lot of other people, putting the work in day and night, and they're not giving up no matter what. And they're becoming very effective. And that's what you have to do. You have to work for change. Sitting home, watching TV and calling people on your phone. Yeah, I don't like what that Biden guy did, and this one and that one. And, this sucks, that sucks. But, what are you really doing besides blowing hot air and complaining about it?
Right.
If everybody who really loved and cared about our country came up with some type of, realistic solution where they could go out there and actually leave their couch, get off their couch and walk out of their house and get like 3 or 4 more of their friends to come along with some kind of idea they got to help something somewhere, out in our country. This is how we rebuild ourselves. We need to get together and help each other and find common ground for change. Complaining about things and repeating and recycling the same problems and information like they do on the news, that's not a solution. It's great to have awareness and communication in that sense, but what are people really doing? And even the politicians, they're all saying the same thing, repeating the same information, crying and blowing hot air out of their asses about the same problems in America. But who's really putting the work in? I'm not trying to, glamorize people and make their heads explode. But my friend Jeff puts a lot of work in. He was real effective. He filed some papers, and you're on a target and you're becoming effective when you start getting blocked on social media. I remember when Wendy Link, the supervisor of elections here in Palm Beach, blocked him. He's like, "Oh my God, Stan, she blocked me." And I'm like, "Wow, that sucks, I guess." And I was like, I wonder if she blocked me too. And wouldn't you know it, she blocked me as well. And the accusation goes, somebody posted a video with voter signatures. And yesterday, I went through the social media platforms and I couldn't find anything. So, I got a message for you, Wendy Link. Get honest with yourself and get honest with the people, because it's a lie.
This is really crazy, but I went to tag Jeff because I usually tag you guys in my posts for the show and such. And he was not coming up on my list. And he used to come up first on the list when I go and I put Jeff in, and there's Jeff on Journal right at the top. I couldn't find him. So somebody changed the algorithm, and that was on X. I thought that was pretty interesting. Found some other stuff on Telegram and how they're censoring us too. They've taken the protected status of chats out, and they didn't tell anybody. So that means they can go in, they can infiltrate, they can look, they can grab for evidence and all that sort of thing. But and my point to that is that any electronic means of communication is always, just like our elections, able to be hacked and compromised.
Right.
So I think we should all have learned that lesson by now, but I think there's still some people out there that still believe that this stuff is honest, and it's just not. But you can't compete with the effectiveness of personal relationships. And that's what I hear that you do with people that come in for substance abuse, is that you actually walk with them. Bible calls that a paraclete. Paraclete is like the Holy Spirit that walks with us, and it's a relationship. And I think that's so important. The emotional and spiritual bankruptcy of this nation is just absolutely heartbreaking. And one thing I don't understand, and I don't understand this, I'd like you to help me understand this, is why people feel shame and why they don't feel love. Is there that much judgmentalism when someone is struggling? Is it like, like most of society, if somebody's having a problem, people behave like sharks and they go for blood in the water, right?
Right.
And they want to drag people down further, or they won't forget, or they won't forgive, or whatever, and go past it. But they just seem to want to. But I don't understand why they feel so much shame, because they shouldn't. I mean, every step that they take in the right direction, everyone should be celebrating them overcoming it, because end of the day, there's not one of us that's perfect. There was only one perfect, and his name was Jesus Christ, and he didn't throw a stone. So I don't quite understand why there's so much shame.
Well, it's a cunning, baffling, powerful disease, and like I said, it hijacks the entire life, your soul.
Is it self-shame, or is it from coming from the outside?
Well, when you're on drugs and you have a drug problem, you're pretty much feeling high all the time. So like I said, when somebody is abstinent for a period of time, their feelings come back. And this is what recovery really teaches one about. It's how to deal with self. And there's a lot to a human being. We're not just like robots that could be programmed, and everybody is treated and on a different level psychologically. So, in recovery, I teach people about an internal void before they picked up a drink or a drug, and to look at the real problem. When you're using alcohol and drugs as a coping, self-medicating in your life for other internal voids and conflict, mentally and emotionally going on inside of you, it becomes your crutch. Like you talk about triggers and substance abuse, like I said earlier, like people, places, and things become triggers for people to relapse. For me, I speak about my own personal story. I don't believe in triggers personally. My trigger was my eyes opened in the morning. Life was just better if I had a drink and drug of me. It was great. I could be homeless in the street inside of an abandoned building on Christmas morning. My family doesn't know where I was. As long as I got a couple dollars in my pocket, a bottle of booze, and some drugs, I was happy. This is the power of the disease. I've seen people, lawyers, doctors, politicians, this disease bring them to their knees. It's like an evil demon sucking the life out of somebody. And I could predict anybody's future. If they keep using, it doesn't get better. It only gets worse. Everything in my life that I struggled to have, it was a struggle for me. Everything I touched turned to shit. Nothing ever lasted. And that was because of my substance abuse problems. And when I got clean and sober for a period of time, I had to start looking at self and learning how to deal with me and identifying what was wrong with me and finding solutions through other people and educating myself to change myself. There's no one's going to love you and care about you as much as you're going to love and care about yourself. And that's hard to look at, after going through years of self-inflicted harm and abuse. Your conscience is gone, and you're pretty much, like you said, you're bankrupt mentally and emotionally, and it's hard to look at the mirror, at a point and say to yourself, wow, nobody likes me, I'm a drug addict, I'm like a misfit in society. People pass judgment on me, and I experienced all of these things. I remember at one point, I had nowhere to go. I was homeless in the streets, and I went door to door calling friends up. I'm cold, I'm tired, I'm hungry. Can I spend the night on your couch or even sleep on your floor? And my friends that back then and family, like pretty much Like, you know, they didn't even want to open the door. They're like, look, get out of here. We're going to call the cops on you. We'll pick you up when you're in a body bag. So the compassion and empathy on my end comes from my own personal experience. You know, nobody gave a shit about me. Nobody tried helping me. You know, I had to learn how to do these things on my own. I had to learn how to save myself. You know, it was really dark, my experience in my life. You know, I lost count how many times, you know, I was dead on arrival. And I honestly believed at one point that I'd never have my life back again. So at that moment when I gave up was the exact moment something else higher came inside of me and restored just a mustard seed of strength in me to just push me and say, you know, it's not time for you. You know, you got work ahead of you. There's people who need you. You know, I have purpose today. And my experience is what I share with the people I work with and help them come out of the darkness and into the light.
It was God himself that picked you up, wasn't it?
It was something, you know, it was somebody above, you know, it was just nobody down here in our world.
Yeah. People are a little running a deficit right now, I think, because everybody's hurting so much. As you said, there's very few people that have something really to give without having momentary lapses of judgment and of reaction towards things. It's hard for people because they are so hurting and they're needing things to fill those voids. So what are common voids? So I've got a lot of questions, but I don't even know the questions to ask right now, you know, that would really resonate with a lot of people out there. What are some of the most common things that come up?
What kind of questions? As far as what?
I don't know, just, you know, the things that drove them to start drinking or drugs in the first place. What kind of voids
childhood trauma, and you know, it could be anything really.
You just can't get. It's not like current stuff. It's past stuff, is what I'm hearing.
It could be past. It could be current. You know, you really don't need to look at society today. Look at the younger minds, the younger generations, the young kids, the school kids.
They're not coping at all.
They legalized the marijuana. You know, it's pouring gasoline on top of the fire. You know, that's aimed at the younger generations. These young kids, they get together, they hang out. I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. You know, let's get dad's bottle of liquor. Let's go out to the barn. Let's go hang out by the water, get a bonfire going. And I speak about that today from my own personal experience. You know, I stand in front of hundreds of people. I'm like, how did something start off so great when we were young, great memories, party, and turn to shit? You know, how businesses, everything's gone. I'm homeless in the street. How'd I get here? You know, at a young age of 10, 11 years old, I picked up my first beer. And from that point on, my life was held hostage by the disease of addiction. I didn't have a chance. And it's like that for everyone who are real alcoholics and drug addicts.
So going back to that, so like I'm one of those weird people that I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never done illegal drugs. I've never smoked pot or anything like that. Because when I was younger, I worked so much as a kid. And I worked in, you know, my dad had a business that was struggling. And so us kids were kind of like slave labor. I mean, you went there, you had to, not really. I'm just saying that, you know, to be funny. But the reality is that we worked. I started filling trucks when I was 7 years old. And I didn't have time to get in trouble or time to do, you know, pretty much have a lot of nonsense going on in our lives because we were working so hard just for our family to survive. But we worked together. And my family still to this day, we all work together. All of our kids work for us and such. And I think that lack of purpose, you know, when they outlawed the ability for children to work, not compulsory work, like throw your kids in the factory and that sort of, but when kids can work in a family business, we have a lot of friends that their kids work in their businesses with them. I have a very, very good friend, John, who has a restaurant. I love him dearly. I love their family dearly. And even his grandkids are in there helping out in the restaurant and such. But there's a purpose. When you find a group of people, this is one thing I'm wondering. When you find a group of people at a very young age and you have a shared purpose, it's not for money. It's not for success. It's because you love the people around you and you want to see the best for them. That there's such a huge purpose that you realize how valuable your time is, that you wouldn't even waste a second of it because you realize how many people need you. And I think that I've seen that so go away. You know, the gifts that God's poured into everyone are so unique. I mean, if no matter who you are, there's never going to be another you like you ever in this world, no matter how long this world exists, right? And those gifts that God gave you are such a unique gift to the world that to waste 1 minute of that time on foolishness, I think is just crazy. It seems crazy to me, because there's always somebody else that you can pick up. And I'm just kind of wondering, with the way that the school systems have gone and this isolating children. Okay, I'm going to go back to the fact that there's a lot of parents that are putting their kids in everything. I was done with a system a long time ago. Like, I homeschooled my kids because I thought it was stupid. I thought what they were teaching in the schools was stupid. Most of my kids are in their 30s. So I've only got one that's in their late 20s yet. And that's my special needs daughter. So she'll always be about 3 years old. But the rest of them are creeping pretty close to 40. But I always thought that this whole nonsense of shipping your kids out and having them in every single activity on the planet was kind of nuts. You don't get a chance to bond. You don't have time to actually have a family. And as much as everybody likes things, and they look like they're good activities to be in, I'll give you that. If you don't keep that family strong and give your kids a purpose other than just competing for ribbons and trophies and such, you're missing the boat, because you're depriving them of probably one of the single most valuable gifts, and that's a gift of your family and your time. Kids go back. They're not going to go say, man, I wish I would have spent an extra hour on the field or something like that every day. They're going to be, when they get older, I wish I would have spent more time with mom and dad. I wish I would have heard the stories, right? My mom died week before last year. It's about a week and a half now. And
I'm so sorry. My condolences. You said that the last time I was on your show last week.
Yeah. And I have a very easy time with death, because I really believe and I know that they go to be with God. So it's not the end. However, I think that that's pretty common. I wish when we lose people, I wish I would have spent more time with them, is a common sentiment that is said by a lot of people. I wish I would have stepped in. If you've ever known somebody who committed suicide or accomplished a suicide, I wish I would have been able to step in and I knew that there was a problem. Well, if we're running around to all these time-filling events and we're really not getting a chance to know people or step in when they're struggling or opening our doors, we're never going to know. I went to a wedding this weekend, Dr. Kent, who's on Fridays, the Jewish wedding. It was absolutely wonderful. And one of the most precious thing is when they got married under, I can't remember the name of it. It starts with a T. It's like a little tent structure. And they said that it's covered to be under the covering of God, but the sides are wide open in order to make sure that we symbolize and we make a statement that our houses will always be open to invite people in, and that we would be that family or that group of people that would invite. I think that's so important, and that's so what's missing. And you're just doing a great job of that. I'm always amazed talking to you, because it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it and the heartbeat behind your intention.
Thank you, Donna.
You're just this great big teddy bear of love for the world. It's amazing. And it's amazing how many people that you've created safe spots for people who are so hurting. You're not just talking, you're actually inviting them in. You're like, come on, buddy, we can do this together.
I open my arms to the worst of the worst,
I know you do. It's amazing.
Come in and, like local 12-step meetings that I attend, I see I was a train wreck when I first walked in. I walked up to people in recovery, in these 12-step meetings and asked them for help. They ran away from me. They didn't walk away from me. They're like, this guy's too far gone. This guy's too far gone. And but let's go back to what you were saying about, your family had you loading trucks up when you were 7 as a child. Yeah. That, like what I was talking about, like addiction is like a virus that infects the computer. It's the same thing. It affects one's life. So it's real important in the beginning of recovery to learn from the time you wake up until the time comes where you lay your head back down on the pillow, to learn how to restructure your life productively. Whether it be getting up and going to the gym in the morning or getting up and cleaning your house. A lot of people who have substance abuse problems, they can't even get out of bed in the morning. They're laying there contemplating suicide. They're looking at the truth about the the damage they've done to themselves and their lives and their loved ones, how this disease impacted them. And it's very, very hard, and they struggle a lot to deal with themselves at this critical stage, because now they have their conscience back and they're looking in the mirror and they're seeing the truth about how their life was. And, it takes a lot of good people to be around, and, the people, places, and things you have to get rid of. And you need to find people that are loving, caring, and have the knowledge to share with these individuals to help them get through this tough part of their time. I recommend people going to church, being connected to some kind of religious organization for the spiritual end of it. It's called the spiritual malady, people carry, that void, that emptiness inside of them. And I meet a lot of people in my line of work that don't necessarily have drug and alcohol problems. They just have other problems. They have compulsions. They have behavioral problems. They're drug dealers. They don't drink and get high, but they sell drugs. They live a life of a criminal. People who have cigarette problems, people who stop using addictive substances still have a void within them for a period of time, sometimes forever. Some people only go so far in recovery. Even though they're not drinking and getting high, they're stuck with these behaviors for life. They don't know how to identify them. They're still in denial with a lot of things, and they don't know how to change a lot of things about themselves. So like I was saying, people who have drug and alcohol problems come to these 12-step meetings. I work with them because sometimes they have problems with gambling. They have a problem with overeating. They have compulsions and other things in life that they need to address, and they're trying to get help with. You can take the word cocaine out. You can take the word alcohol out. You can replace it with anything you want. If you think you have a problem with something, like I said, I believe politics would really benefit from a really good 12-step program.
I do too. It's a crazy venue. It's a really crazy venue to be in. It really is. And it really is. And honestly, people get addicted to their parties or the things rather than looking at the issues to solve it. They get addicted to the bitching. They like to bitch. They like to find people that agree with them instead of fixing the problems. It ends up being like a little cult situation, in my opinion. I really do think that it's like a bad group of friends that's trying to manipulate the way you think. So you stop thinking and you just follow the herd. It's like a bunch of lemmings.
You look at the other part, the flip side of it too. People don't like change. People live in a certain way, and everything in life is subject to change without notice. That's the good news, and that's the bad news. About change, and people have a problem dealing with change, including myself. But it's funny because getting back to it. When you really look at an individual who's starting to get themselves together, the structuring part is so important. From the time they wake up to learning how to restructure themselves the right way. If you sit home all day and you're in a depression and you're isolating and you're not calling anybody, you don't have anybody there for you, nobody wants nothing to do with you, where the stigma comes in, and you really burned all your bridges in life. This is where the scary part comes in for individuals. They really feel unloved, unwanted. They feel hated, disliked, and that their mind is really vulnerable for self-destructive behaviors. And once that depression sets in, it's more than anything. I pray for people, and I try to help people and tell them the importance of learn how to pray for yourself. Go to a church. Don't sit home by yourself. Don't isolate. Pick up the phone. I'll come pick you up. I'll take you to church, take you to a meeting. But this is where the interaction comes in. Mostly when people start feeling some kind of way and they start feeling down and negative, they want to go back to that old environment. Right away, they need that crutch. They need that drink. They need that drug. And they go right back to the same people who are around again, because that's all they know. That's their brains are rewired. And it takes people with understanding, empathy, and the knowledge to get in there and grab them. And so instead of the disease grabbing them by the hand and taking them back, living into the compulsion, people like me are there to grab them by the hand and say, look, that's not the way. This is the way. Follow me. And it's a lot of personal things. I get involved with people, and I really have to keep healthy boundaries for my own sake, because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm a very caring, compassionate person, And I've gone to a lot of funerals, Donna. I mean, many funerals. And I don't like going to funerals. I remember when I first came into recovery, I met this man. His name was Richard Manzella. They used to call him, his nickname was Temporary Rich. And I used to see him in the local 12-step meetings. And I didn't know anything. You know, in my mind, I wanted to drink and go party. And this guy, he walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, Stan, how you doing? I've been seeing you around a lot lately. You know, you got a nice suit." And, you know, I walked away. And I'm like, that's kind of a weird question. Do I have a nice suit? So a couple months down the road, you know, I met some friends in recovery and I see this guy again. And he goes, and I said to him, I'm like, this guy's going to walk up to me and ask me if I got a nice suit. Guaranteed it. And Rich walks up to me. "Hey, Stan, you're looking great, man. Wow. Have you drank today?" "No, Rich, I haven't." "Oh, did you get a nice suit yet?" And I said, "No, Rich." And I said, "By the way, why do you keep asking me that, Rich?" He goes, "Because if you plan on doing the right things, you're going to go to a lot of funerals." And it really, you know, it took a minute to resonate in my mind. And today I could say that man was right. He passed away like 4 years ago with 42 years of sobriety under his belt. And the man helped so many people. But it's people like him that I met along my journey that, you know, when I heard their stories, it didn't make sense to me, you know, because, you know, I had a lot of problems going on inside myself. But, you know, God put them on my path for me to meet them. And they shared knowledge with me. And, you know, this is what I share with the people I work with. And, you know, I spend a lot of time, you know, educating myself, you know, helping myself find solutions to deal with people. Because, you know, how do you help someone if they don't know how to help themselves? And, you know, there's nobody else there for them. You know, I deal with the most broken people in society. And I wish I could find more people like myself and, you know, build up a little army of people out there. And that's, you know, that's the work I do. You know, I'm trying to build my business, and, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, show me the money, and we want to see money up front. And, you know, going back to like the schools and the marijuana problem and, you know, that right upbringing, you're blessed. You know, you had good parents, you know, they kept you productive at 7 years old, you know, loading trucks up, you know, that was great. You know, by God's grace, you know, you had good people in your life around you. You know, look at you today. You know, you do a lot. You're a productive woman today because you had good parents, you had good family, you had a good life. But
I tell you what, I did so much shoveling when I was a kid that by the time I got to college, I could out arm wrestle most guys. I don't think I ever had to buy a beer because I was so used to shoveling. I would shovel a mound of dirt every day, about 5.5 feet tall. Sometimes more than that.
There's a lot of social factors that play a role as well. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there, you know, moms and dads who never had a good upbringing, and they have bad behaviors. They're drug dealers, they're addicts, alcoholics, and they're bringing life into this world. And these children, these kids that came into the world, they're innocent souls that aren't like, hey, you know, I want to be born today. You know, they didn't volunteer to come into this world, and it's unfortunate that, you know, they're missing out. You know, they're being raised the wrong way, and they become a burden on society. The misfits in society. They become drug dealers. They become criminals. You know, they have behavioral problems. They have depression. You know, there's so many social, biological factors at play here. You know, it's not just the substance abuse. There's a lot of things. And I feel like, you know, the most important thing I could do is, you know, I'm working on building an awareness program to bring into the schools, because, you know, I'm really looking at these young minds saying, you know, these I know for a fact, you know, they're going to try drinking, they're going to try smoking weed, and, you know, when they can't get high anymore from the marijuana, you know, what comes after that? You know, let's try another drug. And, you know, I really want to push some programs out there, you know, in the educational system to help save lives in that sense, you know, help a kid not pick up his first drink of drug and go through what I went through and millions of others have gone through.
So Dr. David just called because it was Dr. David's wedding I went to, and he said it's called a chuppah, CHUPPAH. That's the little tent thing that their service was under. It was really beautiful. So congratulations, David and Jeannie. I just sent David a link so that he can come on. He loves coming on here, and I love David and Jeannie. They're amazing. So he clarified that for me. So thank you. Maybe he'll jump on here a minute. Yeah, something else that I thought while we were talking here is like, if anybody has prayer requests while we're on, you can always put them in the chat. Put them in the chat, and we'll. I see the chats on Rumble. I get some of them on. I'm not sure if it's coming through YouTube or X, but go ahead and give us a prayer request. We'll pray for you right now.
Prayers are good.
Okay. I'm gonna David's gonna come on and we'll talk about his wedding, which was really fun. It was such a fun time to be there, and I'm gonna say please join. Now this is the way it goes, guys. It's like real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. So there you go. So yeah, I'm sorry I got distracted by the chat here a little bit too, but yeah, it's just really unfortunate that they're really the destruction of the family and community has really hurt this nation more than what we could ever. I remember going to one of my uncle and aunt's houses. They raised cantaloupe and turkeys, so they had a huge turkey farm, but they also did cantaloupes, right? And us kids would go out there and we would be picking melons and doing all that. You just sort of did stuff. I mean, no matter, there was always work going on. If you're from like a farm family, there was always something going on. You go to my Aunt Jane's house, and Aunt Jane, she would have us go out and pick beans, and then if the beans were picked, we snipped the beans so she could put the beans away, because we cooked our own food and we grew our own food and we put up our own food and such. So I mean, of course we did some of it, but all of those things changed when people started moving into the Industrial Revolution and into the cities rather than being in farms. I do think that that's a large part of something that we need to go back to, like doing bees and having gardens. And even if you live in an apartment, you can grow your own food. You can do microgreens. Have you ever looked into that?
Yeah, I've looked into it. I know some people that took vacant land in my community back in Jersey where I live from the city. The city donated it, and they turned them into these botanical gardens. They put benches in there, and they sometimes, like in the summertime, the fall, like in Liberty Park, they would bring sheep and all these animals down, for the public to see and experience, because you live in a concrete jungle. You're in a city. There's no fields, there's no pastures, there's no animals. It's crime, partying, it's commercialized, and businesses, and there's not much to do. That's why I stress the importance of bringing some kind of constructive programs into the educational system, to give these kids some kind of after school program to be part of, to go on trips to places like where you live and go on farms and get in touch with what real life is. It's not just playing video games after school and hanging out in the corner with your friends and going down the mall and smoking pot and drinking, sneaking drinks here and there. There's quality of life, Donna.
Yeah, there's always something to do, but you really find your purpose when you take care of others. So I mean, even people that live in small houses, did you know that a half an acre garden, think about this, half an acre garden, 36 chickens and two goats for milking, you can feed 9 families. You can feed 9 families off of that. Wow. There's a guy that I know who has made a job out of a 10 by 20 room. He does microgreens, and he makes $250,000 a year. And so when you look at the opportunity to take care of something, I think that's the biggest thing, is take care of something, whether it's a plant or an animal or something like that, and make that such an important part of your day that you're watching everything they do. That's what you do when you're a farmer. Like, I know every single one of my horses. One of my sons knows every single one of our chickens, even though we have like about 130 birds, right?
I love chickens.
Yeah, we do too. We love chickens. Chickens are great. But we watch them. We can actually tell all of the chickens apart. We know them individually, and we know when there's a problem or that sort of thing. Same thing with the horses. I can tell you every single thing about every horse. And the funny thing is that when I find a lot of people that are afraid of horses, a lot of people are scared of horses because they're big. They don't know what they're going to do. And yeah, they can take you out. If you got a horse that they only cooperate because they want to. They don't need to pay attention to gates. They can usually jump right over them. They're like a deer, right? And gates really don't hold them in, or fences. They can plow right through them if they want to.
Yeah,
So
I remember as a kid going to my aunt's farm in Brunswick, New Jersey when I was little. She had apple trees on her property, and they started this electrified fence. And I remember seeing the horses, and I ran up before my mother or anybody grabbed me, and I touched the fence, and I was stuck to it, frying on the electric.
oh geez.
Yeah, horses are beautiful, really beautiful. But I noticed when I got older and I went around horses, they get a little crazy and start kicking. It could be damaging. But like, it's funny, as you mentioned it about getting a pet, getting a plant. It's one of the suggestions in early recovery to refrain from getting in a relationship with anybody, because you're unstable right now, mentally and emotionally. It's when two people in recovery get together, it's like two handicapped people trying to take care of each other. Two dead batteries don't start a car. So it's a suggestion. Once you get a plant or get a pet, and see how that goes for the first year. But yeah, it teaches you responsibility, for people.
Well, even if you pay attention to the problems in other people's lives, you won't feel as lonely in your own life, because everybody has problems. There's always something that you can smile at somebody, pick up the phone, say, hey, how you doing, buddy? And be interested and invested in their lives, just like you would a pet almost, not that they're pets, but you look at them and try to figure out what's making them happy or sad, and then you jump in and you do something. That's real purpose. You can get up every morning and keep a prayer list, a list of people that you want to pray for, that that are struggling or have hurts in their lives, and pray for them. But then call them. Love is action. Love is action when you reach out to others and they know, wow, somebody actually cares. Somebody is thinking about me today. Think about that. When we post online, I put you on my posts a lot, because I want to make sure that your name is out there in front of people so they can find you. That's why I tag you and some other people that are significant on my posts. I try to include you in a lot of posts, because I want them to find you. That's what I do, or make memes. I've got a meme maker on my phone. Do you can make personal memes for people? Take a photo of them that you took, that you love, and personalize that photo and send it to them. Take them a few minutes. And as you're making that meme up, or that photo that says, just want to let you know I love you, and you actually took the time to do it, you didn't just grab them off the internet, and send it to people and say, I love you, you're a good person, and just the fact that you're alive, you made my life a better place.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I usually call somebody on the phone, like, hey, I was thinking about it. Just want to tell you I was thinking about it.
I'm sure you do.
I like the unexpected part.
Yeah,
I call somebody's house and I knock on their door like I'm the FBI. Open up, and they're like, what are you doing here? Come by to see it. What do you think I'm doing here?
I love this. See, I could see you doing that, because you're like this big warm teddy bear of love for the world. I love that. And all of those things that people probably don't realize are so significant, but just letting people know that you care. Because how many people go through the day, every day, it's the same thing over and over. It's Groundhog's Day of shit soup out there, of the crap you deal with, and the people that don't care. Well, you know what? The way you combat a world that doesn't care is you have to care. If you don't have an example, you have to be the example. You have to step up. If you see somebody's house that they're having a struggle, you should step in and help them. Maybe help them paint. So instead of just sitting there bitching or going to the bar and bitching about somebody, go and help them. Reach a hand out. I think when I was a kid, there used to be a gal in our church. She was a wonderful lady. Her name was Betty Majors, and she sent cards out to everyone on their birthday. She actually remembered everybody's birthday. She sent cards out, a physical card, and that card ministry was so important. Just these little things that you remember. But if you don't take time to know people, you that relationship part of it, you're never going to get in the game to help people. People earn the right to talk or have because they care, not just because they're telling you what to do. It's because they care. And unless people know how much you care, they're not ever going to trust you, because you're not putting the time in to reaching out to them, to knowing what their struggles are and caring about them, or even helping them walk with you. I had somebody that asked me to make a curriculum on rehabilitation with horses. There's a lot of things out there that are curriculums, but there's I can teach anybody to get over being afraid of a horse within less than 15 minutes.
That's
So
great.
if you come to Michigan,
I wish substance abuse was that simple, 15-minute course and, you heal.
You know what? I could actually teach people in substance abuse to get over a lot of that sort of thing very quickly with animals.
Animals are effective though. If those help fill the void, Donna, and that's what it is. Filling the void with drinks, with drugs, negative behaviors, sex, gambling. It's all negative behaviors that people fill the void with, and stop filling it with negative and start filling it with good people in your life, with God-loving people, with prayer, with going to church. What did you do good for yourself today? Not being selfish, but being selflessly caring for yourself, loving yourself. Did you eat right? Did you go to the gym? Did you identify one negative bad habit about yourself and try working on that and changing it for the better? I haven't had a cigarette in 14 years, but when people give up one bad addictive thing, they have a tendency to replace it with something else.
Okay, so word of the day is everybody be like Stanley.
No, don't be like me. Don't be like me. Be yourself. No. Be a better version of you. That's all.
Reach out to others and show others that you care. Take those steps to be involved in people's lives. Pray a lot and find purpose, something that you can do that's positive, as well as taking care of yourself. I love that.
In my work, I tell people, there's only one thing you could do wrong in the world in substance abuse. If you're in substance abuse and you have problems, and that wrong thing is pick up a drink or a drug. So provided no matter what, you don't pick up a drink or a drug and you stay active in some kind of program, chances are you're going to learn solutions how to change yourself and build a defense against relapse. So it's pretty much that simple, but it sounds easy, but it's far from it.
I'm going to bring Chris Deal in here a minute. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, great. How you doing? I'm going to try to be like Stanley.
Yeah, you need to be like Stanley. We all need to be like Stanley,
Yeah.
You want to come to the gym with me after the show, right?
Hey, Stan, I might have to. I've done everything that you just mentioned.
Good to see you, Chris. Well, great.
So, the thing of it is that Chris was up here. He did security for me when I was running for governor. So Chris was up here, and Chris actually helped shovel horse shit. And
my first job was with this guy Sperry DeLuca in Jersey City. He had property with oil tanks on it, and he had all the old thoroughbreds, cows, rams on the property that grazed on the grass around the oil tanks. And when I was like 14 years old, I used to ride my dirt bike along these trails where these oil tanks were, and my bike, it stalled, and he walks up to me. You need some help, kid? A big cowboy hat on. And I looked around. I was like, you own all of this? He goes, yeah. He goes, would you want a job shoveling horse shit? And I looked at him. I'm like, really? But it was such a great experience. He taught me how to identify a thoroughbred. He showed me. He's like, you pulled the horse's lip down. It was a tattoo on the inside. He's like, this is how you identify what a thoroughbred is. He taught me how to groom them. The hair, the mane, and everything. But it's funny you mention that with the horses and the animals. It was so nice at a young age. I'm grateful I got these reference points and these experiences in my life where I could go back to and remember, interacting, in that sense with animals, and it impacts the minds and hearts of people. Animals are great. Chris, how are you?
Good, buddy. Good, great, fantastic.
Stanley's gonna have to come up here sometime and then hang out with all everybody up here. We're a little crazy and unconventional. It's kind of old school up here, but we have a lot of fun.
I can tell. Your smile says it all.
And I recruit anybody that's out there at least once a year to help bring hay in, because that's always a big operation is going out to the fields and bringing the hay in, and that's a workout for you right there. That is definitely a workout. But
definitely. All right, look, people, I have to say farewell. Thank you for having me, Donna.
Thanks for being on, Stanley. I love you to pieces, buddy. And all of us are so thankful for the work you're doing. If anybody is out there and is really feeling alone or needs some helpers in substance abuse, I would absolutely encourage you to get a hold of Stanley and talk to him.
AmericanSubstanceAbuseFoundation.com.
Do you have a phone number for people to call you with, Stanley?
201-304-7600.
There you go. And Thanks so much for being on. I'm going to take a real quick break, and I'll be back with a big deal, Chris
Thanks,
Deal
guys.
here.
God bless America. See you next time.
All right.
Dan, take care.
Bye-bye. I'll be right back. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's, let's see, the 9th day of September 2024, and I'm glad you guys are all here. I'm going to bring in the big deal, Chris Deal. You out there, Chris? I can't see you. Okay, well, I don't know what happened to Chris, so I'm going to just move on here. There's a video. He'll be back in a minute. There's a video that I wanted to show everybody, and I think this is significant. I thought this is a wonderful video to start out when we see all the usurpations that are going on. I think that honestly that we really need to study the Constitution and know where we got so off base here. So
a single step beyond the limits of the Constitution is a step too far. Thomas Jefferson, in his 1791 opinion on the constitutionality of a national bank, put it like this: to take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specially drawn around the powers of Congress is to take possession of a boundless field of power, no longer susceptible of any definition. Jefferson understood the danger of precedent. Once you allow government any reason to go beyond its limits, it's going to do it again and again and again, and you know it, again. They'll never, ever stop. This was a widely understood principle for the founders and old revolutionaries. John Dickinson, the penman of the American Revolution, put it this way in his broadside urging non-compliance to the Stamp Act in 1765. If you comply with the act by using stamped papers, you fix, you rivet perpetual chains upon your unhappy country. You unnecessarily, voluntarily establish the detestable precedent, which those who have forged your fetters ardently wish for, to varnish the future exercise of this new claimed authority. Dickinson repeated this warning about precedent in his 1767 Letters from a Farmer in Pennsylvania, the most widely read documents on American liberty up until publication of Thomas Paine's Common Sense in 1776. And quoting Dickinson, Samuel Adams emphasized this same view. When an act injurious to freedom has been once done, and the people bear it, the repetition of it is most likely to meet with submission. Unfortunately today, most people seem to be okay with usurpations of power, acts that go beyond the limits of the Constitution, as long as it's done by their team, their guy, or if they like the policy. But this kind of short-term thinking is like voluntarily disarming yourself and handing a loaded weapon to your enemy. George Washington certainly understood this and even put it in those kinds of terms in his farewell address in 1796. Let there be no change by usurpation, for though this, in one instance, may be the instrument of good, it is the customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. The precedent must always greatly overbalance in permanent evil any partial or transient benefit which the use can at any time yield. I think James Otis Jr. summed it up best. It is of the utmost consequence that we boldly oppose the least infraction of our charter and rights.
There we go. I thought that was a great video, and I thought I'd put that on this morning. And let's see if we can hang on here. All right. And going back and adding Dr. David and the big deal, Chris Deal. Chris, I can't see you. Are you there?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Your camera's not working.
Okay.
So you can click the camera. Hey, David, how are you?
Good morning.
Good
Doing well.
morning. Hey, your wedding was. Oh, there's Jeannie. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, it was so nice. Your wedding was just beautiful. I was trying to think about what your little tent thingy was called, and it's a hoopah, correct?
Yes.
Oh, well, just so everybody out there knows, everybody, congratulations. It was a wonderful wedding, and we had a wonderful time being there. Ralph and I had a great time. Ralph was there with me, of course. And we had a wonderful time, and the wedding was beautiful. And I cannot believe how much food I ate. And I have a funny story for you. So I squirreled away one of the chocolate cupcakes, right? Because they looked fantastic. And I brought one of those home. And so I was eating on our 2.5 hour drive that it took us to get home. I got home and I ate half of it, right? And I put it on the counter because I thought I'm going to eat the rest of it in the morning when I get up. And I get up and my cupcake is gone, right? So one of my sons got up in the middle of the night and chowed down the half a cupcake that was there. I'm like, what were you thinking? You ate half an eaten cupcake. He goes, man, that looked great. And it really was.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad that you got one because they ran out quick.
They were wonderful. I was actually looking up recipes in order to duplicate that recipe. And I think I have one. I like to cook and bake a lot. So I'm like, okay, I think I can figure this one out.
Yeah, it was taken after like the Saunders bumpy cake. So that's kind of what it's a chocolate dip Saunders bumpy cake-ish.
Did you make that?
No, a bakery, specializes in them. So when we come out and see you, we're going to bring you some.
Oh, that would be right. Fantastic. I'm writing it down. I actually bought some molds yesterday to recreate the cream filling in it because that's our area of the state. There's a lot of Dutch here. There used to be more, but the basis of the area was all Dutch and Dutch bakers. And there's the best bakery on the whole planet. It's called the Royal Dutch Bakery, and they have donuts there that have that kind of cream in it. So I'm like, I get this thing figured out. I'm going to make these cupcakes, and it's going to be amazing. So. Did you guys have a great time?
We did.
We did.
It was great. It was amazing. I had so many wonderful close friends and family and our hosts that let us use their home. That was great. What a great scene. I was very worried. It was so cold. That had to have been like a record cold. And then literally when I pulled in the driveway, the clouds parted and the sun was out and it came out good.
It was, yeah.
But
it was special.
who would think you'd need heaters?
Well, I tell you, and you had so many very nice people. There was a dear woman named Carol. That there was two Carols that were there, and Carol, and they were just darling. It had a good time talking with them. So everybody that was there that visited with was just wonderful, and it was just a really good time. Oh, there's the big deal. The big deal is back. Hey, Chris.
I don't know if I'm that big of a deal. I'm a big deal, all right. I'm trying to lose that weight.
Yeah, I think you guys remember him. I think Chris was with me at that one gun show you were at.
I don't remember. I mean, he looks familiar.
Yeah.
I don't recall.
I just look different.
You look different. You look skinnier.
Yeah, right.
You look like you're in a different state. I don't think we have palm trees in Michigan.
Well, yeah, different states do make me look thinner. And that's why I like moving a lot.
So, what else can you tell everybody about your wedding that was really special to you? Because I thought it was just fantastic. You couldn't have planned it out any better. I mean, it was just really comfortable and it was beautiful. And you were such a gorgeous bride, Jeannie. You were so beautiful. Your hair was beautiful and little ornament in the back, the little bling in the back was beautiful, and your kids were all beautiful. It was just wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? I think the theme of every wedding is love, but we really just wanted to put that in the forefront. And because it was a smaller wedding and a second wedding for both of us, that's how we wanted it. We wanted to show the love in our hearts with our children all coming together And every single person that was there
Look at the back.
was very close, very close friends and family, very selected. Not that, you have a lot of people, but you have to cut it off somewhere. And with it being more intimate, people could feel, I think you could feel, I just wanted people to be able to feel our love. That's why, our vows and later on in the tent when we wanted to thank everybody it was because we wanted, as happy as we were with all the love, we wanted everyone to feel that. And I think especially now with everything going on, we all need that love. And to remember that every day, if you do everything with love, everything else can make life a lot easier.
There you go. And your dad, Michael, is adorable, David. He is just an adorable individual. I totally love your dad.
So I'll let him know. That's really nice of you. Yeah. He had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He likes people a lot, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He's a people person.
Like Jeannie. Jeannie's a people person.
Yeah. I think we all are. Everyone that was there, just everyone meshed and flowed, and I think that was just all the positive energy of the people that we love and that are so dear to our hearts. And Donna, you added to the beauty of that day. So thank you for making the ride out and making that happen.
You are more beautiful in person than you are on the screen. You are really a beautiful woman.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so
Obviously,
much.
do something to take care of your skin and face. And I can see that from a professional opinion because I am a facial plastic surgeon. So
yeah, I work on a maintenance program pretty decently. I think that's important. But yeah, I've gotten into castor oil on my face lately.
Somebody else was talking about that recently.
Yeah, so lately that's been my thing. Is at night I put castor oil on my face at night, and for advanced hydration, because quite honestly I have dry skin naturally, so I have to work at that a little bit more than other people do. So there's all these things that I do that are good things and such.
Secrets,
so
women's secrets.
Yeah, lots of secrets. Someday I'll put them out there, but yeah, I think all of us who are I'm going to be 61 this month, so all of us have to work at things a little bit. Gravity.
Nobody could guess that. Nobody seen you.
Well, that's good to know. And nobody will see my gray hair either, because my secret weapon is Andrea. So there you go. Chris is sitting there laughing.
Chris is like, "What am I doing? What are you doing, Chris? Are you
what are you doing, Chris? You're out there at something with a 21 behind you.
Oh, I'm at the airport.
Are you working?
Oh, sort of.
Sort of. You're sort of working. See, I think there's some actual value. We were talking about substance abuse this morning, and people just getting together. And this is one of the driving forces for me to be on every day that I can, is that it's something predictable. It's things that people can tune in, and no matter what we're talking about, it could be something of consequence or something just stupid. It's authentic. And this is authentic. Nobody gets on here, and Stanley pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. He said people ask him, "What's the list of things you can and can't talk about?" He goes, "Let's get a list." We got on this morning, and I was late getting on because I was sending out emails because I was digging up some information, and I got on. I literally jumped on here at like 9 o'clock on the dot. It was like on the dot. I'm like, "Hey, Stanley." He goes, "Man, I was wondering when you're going to jump on." I'm like, "Yeah, I got distracted with emails here a minute." And I'm like, "What are we going to talk about?" We literally had 20 seconds. I don't know. Okay, it's go time. And I went live, and we just kind of make it up like friends showing up at your house or a restaurant or having coffee. And that's really the way I want it to be, is just authentic, knowing that we're just people that get together and we try to figure things out just like everybody else does. Perhaps we're, I know I'm a little more ornery than the average person because I hate bad guys. And I hate things that go wrong. I've always told people, put me in a battle situation and there's going to be bodies everywhere. You go out and package the ones up that you can salvage, but I'll go through and knock down the threats, and then somebody else go patch them up while I'm knocking down the other threats. And I think that really is a great way to work, is that everybody has their own gifts and the things that we do best, and nobody can do everything or know everything. The gift that we have, the greatest gift that God ever gave us, is himself and each other. It's not it is nothing to do with this material world or the things that we chase after or that we chased after when we were younger. Everybody, I think, has to go through that and make a break with what we think the world is supposed to look like. And honestly, the advantage of getting older is that you've had time to sort this out. And having people around that are older than and it's a pity that there's such a break between people who are younger that only hang out with younger people and people that are older that are really sick of their shit and move on and do something else.
Yep.
But we really need to stand together and say, you know, like my dad used to always say, you know, well, don't get too excited about it. You know, just relax a little bit. Things have a way of working out.
Yeah, and I think that I think you mentioned it in the prior hour about the breakdown of the family unit. But I think, you know, if you go back, rewind the clock, you know, 80, 100 years, people, there were probably 3 generations in every house of people living together. And now it's like anything that the government is pushing or, you know, change, you got to question. You know, kids today, they can't wait to move out, you know, right away. And they lose all that education and everything they can learn from grandparents. I think that's why humans were meant to live so long, or that so that they could raise their grandchildren or be part of raising their grandchildren.
And it's helpful. I mean, when you have more hands, like I always have somebody, I always have kids that live with me. I've never been without having somebody live here. And that's by choice. It's because we get along, and Chris can vouch for that. We get along really well.
Oh, yeah.
And such. At one point in time, I had 10 other people living in my house. My brother and his kids were here a few years ago when he was going through a divorce, and they were here. And so, you know, to reach out, and the deal with losing my mom lately has been really interesting, because now I got to get rid of all of their crap. And they had a lot of stuff. And so now it's like, you know, and I was talking to my kids, I said, the strength is that someday when I bon voyage and I take off and head home to God, you know, you guys are just already here. There's nothing you have to do, because we haven't had a duplicate houses. And that there's a real advantage of that, of not having to duplicate everything mom and dad did just to say. And that's a very Western mentality. I mean, that didn't really start until about the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
That families lived together, and you didn't just you know, take off and try to take on the world. I don't think it's a good plan. I really don't.
No, it's purposeful. You know, all that stuff is done purposeful. Break up the family unit. And what's Chris doing?
Yeah,
we're hogging the show. We're hogging his hour.
Listening to all this good stuff. I'm presently working, but and sitting with this ex-police officer in New York who has a lot of experience about stuff also that you speak about. But yeah, there's nothing I can say about what you're saying. I mean, you said it all, you know. I mean, this.
Well, and I think too, it's like when we open our arms up, I mean, people that are not traditionally our family can become closer than family sometimes, as the train wreck of the United States that we've gone through. There's definitely a spirit family. And when you meet your family, that is, you know, I find that to be with pretty much all Trump supporters. Honestly, you meet people that are Trump supporters, and it's what we're supporting. And let me say, he's the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump. We're going to say it all the time because he is, because the election was stolen from him. And Benson, go ahead and threaten me. Let's see how that works out. Probably not too well, because I'll double down just like I did on Betsy the criminal DeVos, you know. And you know, it's like it's true. I think you know, we need to stand together as family. And realistically, when they went after the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, they went after all of us. Every single one of us had our voices taken away. Even the people that didn't vote for him. And as the point of the video I played, and that's from the 10th Amendment Center this morning, the weapon that they used to destroy liberty was the infiltration. And one usurpation leads to another and another. And now we're here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw that out there. I think we've already lost the United States of America. And we're going to have to fight our way out of this and fight our way back. Because part of what we lost is the critical thinking of Americans and the selflessness to help each other out. That's got to come first. We have to put other people in front of our own goals and our things that we think we want. Well, all we really need is each other.
Well, I'd like to add that we do have to, like you said, we have to keep fighting, and it's going to take all of us. And the one thing we're going to have to do, I believe, is that we're going to have to get out and we're going to have to vote early, not on the voting day or the day of voting. We're going to have to get out and do it early because of the plan in which I think that they have, which is going to shut all of our communications down with
You're breaking up there, Chris. I think there's some background noise. What did you say?
we're going to have to vote early. If we're smart, we'll vote early, not until the day of voting, because if we do, I mean, they're already telling us what they're going to do, and they're doing it by projection, saying that Russia is going to hybrid or
Right.
hack communications and whatnot. The cyber stuff that's coming from Russia is all really bullshit. It's coming from the United States. It shut down all of our communications and things like that because of the voting, because they know that if President Trump gets elected, they already know that they're going to be prosecuted. They do know that, and they're scared to death of that. And that's why we're seeing blunder, destruction, confusion, everything. All of this stuff is being promoted by the Democrats, and it's all just like J6. It's all to cover up what happened in 2020. All of this, and their desire to take over. They're communists. We have communists that are trying to gain control of America. But I'm going to tell you this, that God, number one, is not going to allow it. This is a Marie Antoinette moment for them. The king went ahead and looked down upon the people that were feeding them, and look what happened to them. Well, this is no different. And they don't realize it because all they are doing is the act of evil. They have no circumference of getting information, being truthful. They have an agenda. It's not going to work. Truly, it's not going to work. It looks like it is. It looks like it looks scary, and they're going to do things that are going to be scary in the future. But as far as this election goes, but we have to. This is where we have to pull our bootstraps up. We have to get out. We have to vote early. We can't. I can't say it enough. We have to do it early, because if we wait, they're going to shut it down. So we have to get our voices in now. That's probably the most important thing. Everything else, I mean, all the crimes that they've committed, the treason and all that, the takeover of this country is not just 2020, but it's look at how they placed an unelected person, Harris. She's an unelected person that they placed into the position of power. And I mean, if you remember, she had not one delegate when she began this whole thing. And she was the first one to drop out, I believe, because she was so weak. Well, what the left has done was to create like they usually create, destruction. They created this false person, character, and they're going to try to push this false character forward so that they can, Obama and the powers that be in the back can use her as a puppet. We are not a puppet government. We are founded by God, not Mohammed. So for all the people that are trying to come in and change our foundation, it's not going to work. We have too much love for God. We've got too many people that believe the same things that you're talking about, Donna, and that you're talking about, good doctor is talking about. We have too much of that in this state. We're looking at the man behind the curtain. There's not really that are behind that. And this is going to be a numbers game. So this is a time that we really have to be strong. We also have to go into the Bible, and I believe that we have to get the word of God in this and be strong in that sense too. Otherwise, we will succumb to that, which I don't believe. I really don't. But because we look at what we've been through: World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam. We've been through all this Middle East crap, and all of this is just the creation of. It's the creation of a repetition of what the devil does, all the way back to the Roman days and go back to Babylon. And it's the same system that had been placed in Babylon that fell because it only lasts 200 years. Rome, the Roman Empire, all these systems, the evil systems that are placed in big societies, they never last because of what they're doing. The systems are bad. But the foundation, what founded us, is good. So we have to go on what this nation is founded on, and stay with that, and just know that we're going to have them that are going to be feral. But we have to keep control of that by keeping control of ourselves and staying with God. And I'm telling you, you can't go on what you think. You have to go to God.
Well, it's just like that. It's always been that way. It's that God Almighty always leads us out of bad situations. And I mean, that's the one thing we can count on. So, I mean, I think it's the path right now. The only path we have is to go back to God, figure out what he wants us to do and seek his will first. Then everything else will fall in place. I really believe that. I think the first time I met you, Chris, what did I say? It's going to be okay.
Yep, you did. I picked her up at her place. I had no idea where I was going. They sent me. I went, picked her and her husband up at the place that they were staying at in Anna Marie Island, up that way, near there. Anyway, so she's talking to me the whole way to the airport about, we're both talking about stuff like we've known each other for 20 years or something, And at the end, when I dropped them both off, I walked around and I looked at her and she looked at me and I go, "Do you think? What do you think?" She looked at me and she goes, "Don't worry, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be."
Sounds like Donna. The optimist of optimists.
Take the adventure at hand, right? That's what we got to do. Look at it all as, this is just going to be another adventure. God put it in front of us. What you going to do with it? You going to sit there and whine and cry about it, or are you going to take and make something out of it? And it's like getting a piece of raw iron ore. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? The gifts that God gives you, whether they're good gifts or bad gifts or things that need to be refined a little bit, what are you going to do? All we got is what we have. You can't sit there and mourn what you don't have or the fact that life's not fair. Really? Newsflash, life isn't fair. It's never been fair. And to expect it to be fair, the only thing you're going to do is crash and burn on your own unrealistic expectations because it isn't fair. and things. I can guarantee you that things are going to go to shit. Okay, that is guaranteed. At some point in time, it's going to go to shit. You're going to fix it. It's going to go to shit again. Guaranteed. I can guarantee you that. So the better off you are at handling crisis or things when they go bad and treating it as something that's a creative way for improvement that you would never choose, then you find all these nuggets that you would never find, because we are lazy. We're like an animal. Animals are lazy. They will conserve every bit of energy they have and go to their own comfort every single time. That's just the way we are. We won't choose to do things that are really, really difficult by our nature unless something is prodding us a little bit. Get moving off of your normal path of comfort. Most people would choose to be on a 100% vacation all the time and, eat, drink, and be merry kind of mentality. That doesn't end well, because it ends up with no purpose and a huge amount of selfishness. But if you go in that direction, guaranteed, gotta go toink, and he'll flip you off your pedestal eventually, because that's just the way it works. And then you'll get into some deep water that you have to struggle a little bit, because he's not interested in our comfort, not one bit. He's interested in our growth, and the fact that we get out into the deep waters and have to go through some storms in order to get stronger and learn things that are more important. So to shy away from it isn't probably the best method. Just run right into it and figure out what you need to do. You're smart. God gave you goals or gifts. I got to show you this because you guys are the first ones to see this. I'm really excited about this. Check this out. We have a card for Gretchen Whitmer for the summons that she got from Donna Brandenburg for a suit. And check this out. Let's see. Dana Nessel.
Nice.
Check
One
this.
more to go.
Now, two more, actually. Let's see. We have
Benson.
Jonathan Brader.
Oh, yeah.
And we have, last but not least,
Benson.
Jocelyn Benson. We have all four cards in. And now, my dear friends, I am going to publish the lawsuit that I filed. And I filed it. Actually, I filed it on the day that my mom passed away because I needed something to do. I don't sit still and just cry about things that happen because, God ended her life that day. That was all the day she was going to have. That was his choice. It wasn't my choice. It was his choice. And I'm not going to argue with God. Peace be with her. And, I hope he heals everything that she had to deal with and all of her suffering. I know he will. And keep her safe in his arms until we meet again. It's okay. So I filed that lawsuit, which I think is pretty significant, on the day my mom died, because I needed something to do, right? And now I have all the summons cards left. I will be going down to the courthouse today, attaching this to the summons. And we already have a case. We have a judge assigned to us. And guess what? It's time for game on, because what I haven't said and what's not in the lawsuit, but I'm going to say it here, is that we found criminal conspiracy. And so discovery is going to be fun. And we found more than that. We're finding names all over the place that are attached to this, which leads back to the tearing down of our elections in Michigan and more. There's more connections there. These people are all connected. Been telling everybody that they're connected. They're connected. And we have proof that they're connected. And there's going to be another one. There's going to be two more probably lawsuits that are going to come out of it. And you know what? I made up my mind that if the government wasn't going to correct this, by God's grace and by his leading, we are going to take this thing back. And there's no escape for them. There's absolutely no escape. The next one's going to make everybody laugh. I'm not going to tell you again until I get all the summons cards back on that one, but it's going to be epicness. Total and complete epic. Screw you to all of them. I can't wait. This is more fun. I didn't even know that I was going to like doing this sort of thing, resolutions or jury proprio lawsuits. I freaking love this. It's awesome.
Great job. That's awesome.
So we will be
Good to know that people are out there fighting for us, and I just you know, and this doesn't mean that everyone should try and do something. Everybody should do whatever they can, but there are people like you out there and Tori. And I do believe that there's got to be some good elements within our government and, you know, some agencies that are working behind the scenes that are trying. And if everybody does a little something or big something in your case, in Chris's case, we're going to win this without a war or casualties.
What if we play the role as, I don't know, say like I really should sue Jim Hoff from Gateway Pundit because he did irreparable damage to me. Absolutely. He committed libel. There's no two ways about it. When he called me billionaire Donna Brandenburg, somebody called me the other day and she said she's an attorney. She said, you are never going to get past that lie.
I thought you were a billionaire after he said that.
No, I'm not.
I know now, but it misled me. I was completely misled.
I laid everything on the line for running for governor because I want my damn country back. And we work every day. Everybody thinks our rail yard, we were battling out with BlackRock and everyone. If you step out, you're going to be attacked and screw them, right? Our rail yard, BlackRock, we're on the BlackRock's UP's main line. And we went down to a 5% capacity of what we normally did. So they were trying to bankrupt us.
Wow.
And so because they wouldn't deliver cars and we were attacked. And they also increased the fees for us 4 times the amount. That's just one business.
That sounds like Standard Oil.
All of them were attacking us. And if anybody thinks that I'm a billionaire, you're dumber than a rock and you have not been paying attention.
You actually probably gave up $1 billion because if you would have joined forces with them and done what you wanted, you'd be a billionaire. Like
I was offered all kinds of money. I was offered money last week again. I was offered money 2 weeks before that. I'm constantly offered money for things. And the thing of it is that if people want this nation back, they better get their heads out of their asses and start joining force with what is actually standing for this nation. And when people have put things, you know, the biggest thing that could help me out, I haven't asked for money, even though it would have been really helpful, right? Nobody will ever understand the cost of what I actually put out there running for governor. And it was because somebody I very much love and respect, and a group of people asked me to run. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is my time, right? To put everything on the line, both my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. I did that and was attacked, brutally attacked. Financially, absolutely, it was a bloodbath. I'm going to tell you what. And really, nobody really stepped up much to help. Chris did. Chris was there every day. Chris never asked for anything. He stepped up and he was there. You guys supported me. You were out there encouraging me, stepping up and such.
You were incredible. I don't want to interrupt, but I've never seen somebody work so hard for something in their life. I mean, across the state. Like one day you're on the west side, the east side, in the same day. And it was incredible what you did.
Well, thank you. I didn't need the job. I mean, what am I going to do? Have a job that pays me, you know, that I've lost
the people we need to bring into government, people that don't need to be there, you know,
right.
They're just doing it because they care about the people.
I just care. And you're absolutely right. But you know, it would really help. It would really help if I had an army of people reposting stuff, because right now I've got with BNN, somebody offered me a whole lot of money for BNN. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really into the money thing. Money makes people stupid. It just makes people dumb as a rock because they stop thinking and they chase the shiny thing. Well, you know, if you get the shiny thing, you're going to find out that the shiny thing isn't as shiny as you think it is. Not at all. And, so I had one guy that's a very dear friend of mine, and his name is Joe, and he put out a feed called Stop and Think News, and their family is struggling, and he is honestly like me, and I'm telling you, they're wonderful. He texted me yesterday and said, I'm going to have to give up, you know, the channel and posting things forward because he said, I just can't even afford the $16 a month right now. And because nobody's stepping up to help the people that are actually working as citizen journalists. And I'm like, nobody gets to quit. Okay. You don't get to quit. Nobody quits on this fight right now. And so I'm like, that's not an acceptable option. I'm like, okay. I said, switch all of your stuff to BNN. Put it all on BNN. And we can help I can help. And somebody offered me a whole bunch of money. And they said, there's people that will throw money in that direction. And I'm like, why do I need their money? I've done it all without it. So at this point in time, what's the point here other than that somebody wants to commandeer what I'm doing? Because if everybody actually gave a crap, they'd be out there posting this stuff from BNN, from everywhere, from posting things on social media and getting it out there and stepping around the fake screen media. And so George Webb was on Friday. He's gotten kicked off of everything. And he lost 4,000 videos a day. I'm like, put it on BNN. And the person that offered me money, they're like, well, you're going to need that money. And I'm like, well, I haven't yet. And, I'll figure something out. But I just don't think it's a good idea because once money's involved, it doesn't work as well. If people really want this nation back, post like your life depends on it, the things that are on either BNN or our social media. Nobody here's making money. That should be your first clue that this is something that, and all of us here have lost incredibly money, time, family, friends, attacks. Gateway Pundit probably did $1 billion worth of damage to me personally that I will never, ever be able to recoup because of the lies.
Yeah.
And that they did. I mean, they committed libel. That's all there is to it. And
my opinion is they are part of the problem. They are paid operators. That's my opinion.
Sides are paid. They're both sides are paid.
And that's part of the reason we're in the situation we're in is there are so many, podcasters, and it started to come out last week. Some of these big podcasters, they're being paid. They're being paid probably by our government, to infiltrate our movement and infiltrate our freedom. And it's starting to come out. And Tori's always said it's going to come out, and they're all going to fall.
Well, and you look at it, it's like look at how many people have got a donate button, like and subscribe. I've been trying to figure out how to do this because I can't sustain this as we grow. There's going to come a point where I'm not going to be able to sustain it because I'm not a billionaire. I work just like everybody else. Yesterday, I was power washing stalls, and one of the stalls that's the word. I've got one horse that likes to back up to the wall and crap on the wall. It's nasty, and so I spent like 5 hours in one stall yesterday, and we're going to have to sand some of it down, and then I'm going to seal it with stuff. But, we work every day. It's like there isn't a day. I don't go sit on a golf course. I actually work, and I work. Today I'm meeting with somebody, and we're having to go through boilers on some of the properties and stuff. We work. Everyone in our family works. We work every day. There's not a day that we take off that we don't work in some form or another, right? And so what I was thinking about it, and I was going to run it past some of you guys out there, and I'm looking for everybody's comments on this. I really am, because I think that if we can actually do this together, I might have been the first plow in the field, but it sure as heck would be better if I had a tractor and a huge, 12 bottom plow or something like that. And that's the equivalent of more people joining in, right? If we had a bunch of people that were actually posting like crazy, getting all these contributors out in the public that can get their work because they're doing it for no money or no support and such. Or I was actually talking to somebody, and they said, well, you should make an app because I think that you could do better than One American News and Rave TV and Fox. I'm like, well, Fox isn't hard to beat. Okay. They're already compromised, and that they're massively compromised. The other ones are, I've got a question on, but if you put into doing an app, any of the apps are controlled because they are controlled by Apple. You can't say what you want to say. It's all controlled. Somebody brought up Patreon. They said if we did something on Patreon that people could just like contribute there. And I'm like, well, I don't even know how I feel about this yet.
Yeah, that's not going to work, I don't think. Because if you're truly against the establishment, they're going to shut down all your banking and any way of you getting money. They've done it to Tori, and she's found a few ways around it, but it is difficult.
I have to talk to her then, because if it could benefit more people, like some of these content creators who are going out of, they're not being able to do their stuff because they're literally living on beans and hot dogs, right?
Oh, yeah. All the real ones, the ones that are on our side are like that.
They're putting everything they have into it. Everything they
the
have.
ones that are being paid $400,000 a week, no, they're not on our side, obviously.
Absolutely not. Because if they were on our side, wouldn't they take that money and put it into the pockets of somebody else who's also struggling and trying to do something? Wouldn't they try to help the people around them?
Well, just look at the ones that were not kicked off of YouTube and Twitter back when it was Twitter. Look at the ones that, you know, it was convenient time that they could talk about COVID and bioweapons and things like that. You know, they were very late. Joe Rogan, all these people, very, very late to the party. Even Tucker Carlson, you know, Fox News. Fox News is our enemy. You know, every time you watch Fox News, you're boosting their ratings and making them more money just by casually listening to it. And I know it sounds good because you feel like they're on our side, but they're just meant to divide us. They're part of the psychological operation, worldwide psychological operation.
Well, if I could figure out a way to help everybody out there, I would do it. I mean, that's the thing, is that if
you are helping everybody just by going on every day. I mean, you're the only person that goes on every single day that we can count on that's going to tell the truth. You don't have any inside secret information and contact. You don't claim to have any of this stuff that never comes true. You know, you just pull people together and try to make people feel good and lawsuits and all the stuff that you do.
Give them something. There was something that I saw that Jaron Jackson put out today that I've got a whole bunch of resolutions I ran or that I wrote, and we're going to do a meeting tonight. I want to get a bunch of people that will come on and help me because I can't do everything. I've got to have some help or people that are willing to put their time in. But I've got 5 resolutions that we need to get smoothed out. And then the lawsuits is I've got another group of people that we get together and we're working on reading the law and finding where they've broken it so I can, you know, file pro se lawsuits.
More lawsuits.
What's that?
More lawsuits. More
lawsuits, because if you do it pro prio, jury pro prio or pro se, it doesn't cost like $100,000. I mean, I have to find ways of doing this like everybody else does, right? I don't have a pile of money sitting there just to go out and sue everybody or to get all this done. I've got a budget. I've got to figure out how to do things the cheapest way, but still get them done. One way to do it is if you do your own stuff. And so I got a group of people that we get together. There's about 4 of us that get together on Sundays, and we read through the laws and we find things that need to be addressed. The next 2 that we do are going to be beastly, which is kind of cool. In fact, the one that I did sign that I showed you the summons for, we were looking in a different direction and found this as we were reading the law. We found this and we're like, holy crap. They blatantly, and I mean blatantly, broke the law in Michigan. Blatantly broke the law. And so it's like we need to go after this and see what happens with this.
And everyone can file a lawsuit. You don't need money to hire lawyers. You can use ChatGPT. I think everybody should FOIA. You know, it's really easy to get a FOIA, which is, you know, the ability to get the information that the public owns and that the government has and what they've done. And you can create your own lawsuits. And if everybody created lawsuits, sooner or later, some of them are going to get through, because not all of our judges and judiciary is corrupt. There are some good ones out there.
Well, it's like Benson. You know, Benson right now was working so hard at keeping Kennedy on the ballot here in Michigan.
Terrible.
I mean, you know, some of us have a couple lawsuits at the actual things they did to break the law at them and or the violations and they're so divided. I mean, honestly, you know, they're so divided trying to, you know, form an attack in some way. They can't take us all. Somebody's going to get through.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't want to do one yourself, you know, reach out to Donna, help her. Everyone can help.
I think it might be helpful. I know from a teacher's perspective is if we have a website or somewhere we can go where we have templates for people, because people are going to say, I don't have a clue what to do. I can't write all this up. I don't know the verbiage. But if we had some templates available for people that they could insert their name, their city, whatever, and the steps on an easy way to do it, I think people will be able to do it and want to do it. And then all of us, boots on the ground people, grassroots, can send it to our families. And hey, do you have a minute to fill out this form? And, if you want to be heard, this is what we need to do. And I think that'll be helpful.
Something I need help with right now is I would like a list of all 1,600 municipal clerks of the state of Michigan. I went to our state rep and her assistant got me a list, but they're only current clerks. You can't get a list. They literally hide as soon as they're out of office. This should all be compiled somewhere, right? I can't get a list of clerks.
So you want the ones that are out of office or in office?
I want the 2020 clerks, municipal clerks. That's what I'm looking for right now. Tried in a million different ways to get this information. Can't seem to get it. I've got a list of all the current clerks, but everybody, as soon as they're out, they're hiding all this.
We talked to our clerk, just an interesting little side note. We talked to the clerk of our city, and she's very nice, definitely a Democrat, but she's like, there's no cheating. She's 100% convinced there is no cheating. The machines are perfectly fine.
She's been doing her job in her position for 20 years, and she gave all of her rationale, which was in her heart, and she was being genuine and authentic. She says, it doesn't happen. And I'm like,
they don't even know.
No. So a lot of these people think they're
probably
doing
more
their job
brainwashed than we are, because they're probably getting it from Benson, straight from her.
Well, they are, because Brader sent a letter out to all the clerks, because I had that here in Byron Township. They got rid of all the election data at the township level. And it was like, and I had an argument with her, because I'm like, so you got rid of everything? I said, don't you have anything here?
Don't they have to keep it for a certain period of time?
Mm-hmm.
They don't even question that. They're giving illegal, unlawful orders.
Yes. And so that a Brader should be removed for that entirely. But one of the things we did find with Benson coming out and telling, if you do not certify the election, we're coming for you. Remember that video?
Yeah, that's so illegal.
That's threats.
They wrote it into the law. And so what they did is they wrote those loopholes in the law so that there's plausible deniability, so that they can say, but it's in the law. But the law is illegal. So the thing of it is that they've given enough, they've written enough nonsense in there that they just started creating laws out of nothing, which they really can't do, and procedures. All they can do is the law is made by the legislature. That's and
well,
they
made the law, the legislator.
Well, no, it's not. I don't believe it's from the legislature. I think it came from within the departments. I think the departments are actually writing and usurping the law by writing policies and putting things in place so they can say, see, it's right here. It's in here. This is what we're doing. And you're like, but that wasn't created by the legislature. So how dare you? You have nothing to say about any of this. But they're writing policies and procedures. They're trying to get around the law by getting around the legislature and making them just a bunch of fools that sit up there in Lansing drinking their whiskey as they're that's all they are. They're just a puppet. And I'm going to say it again. It's like somebody's just got their hands shoved up their behind and they're moving their mouths, because none of them have done a thing. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the same thing that this is part of our awakening process that, Trump has initiated. And the federal government is the same way. These agencies are bypassing laws and creating their own rules, which go against the Constitution. That's why Trump's going to take down all the agencies, break them down.
And they know that who's going to challenge them? Okay, the common person that's sitting here.
You need to be a billionaire to challenge
And that's
them.
why they put them in place. So we need to do retro laws that anyone that does come forth, you can't take them down. They need to be held responsible, but you can't take the person down because they want to research something and they want to ask questions, because that's why everyone sits stagnant, because like, oh my gosh, well, I've got a family to feed. I've got, I got to keep my job. I can't speak what I really want to do and everything that's wrong. So some
people are afraid, but that's like J6. All this stuff was to create fear in people. So we don't question what's going on, but it's not working. A vast majority of people know something is seriously wrong.
But I feel it's ready for change.
But I think that the window, so you look at this on a timeline, they've been doing this for a century. So people say, you said earlier that they infiltrated every area, but if you talk to your neighbors, out casually trying to inform them, from an aerial view, they can't understand that. Sorry, the teacher in me, they can't understand that. Like, well, what do you mean our schools and our medical industry, and how could that be, right? How can that? But you see it. When you step back, you see it, because we're aware, and we've been in it for 7 years and uncovering it.
Jamie talks to everybody, just random strangers in line at the supermarket. She'll start talking about it all.
I know, I will go on my walks, I see a neighbor, and you start talking to them and asking them, and that's how they know we have so many good people. And it just seems, they don't understand how the people that are supposed to be representing us could break the laws and make their own rules, which is what they do. And then that we don't know where to go and what to do. So,
you can do something.
Yeah.
Everyone can do something.
we just need to get plans together. And
I would,
do it.
and back to our Fridays, and I have no knowledge of this, but I did talk to somebody that does seem to be in the know, and they say this is the time that if the power was to go off or something bad was to happen, it's going to happen like now, between now and the election, or when Trump gets into office. So be prepared. Make sure you tune into Don on Fridays.
Well, yeah, because we've got Off the Grid, and it's David and myself and Ralph and Karen, and hopefully Jeannie will come on too. And we just talk as people, and I think that that's the strength. Is it's all of us. It's not one of us. It's all of us working together and fighting for each other. And so Off the Grid's on. We've been doing that for a while now. And what you need to do when the grid goes down. And quite honestly, I think that I've always been a prepper and somebody that I grew up in a farm. You learned how to MacGyver anything and everything that you needed to have done. If you didn't have something, you just kind of figured it out, right? And I think that we're going to be in that position because honestly, and I'm going to beat this drum again today, we have 12 critical power stations in the United States, the transformative stations that we need to have power. There's only 3 zones in the United States. There's the East, the West, and Texas. Of course, Texas is all by itself down there, that have they're for the electric grid. There's 12 critical infrastructure stations on that grid. If they took 9 of them out, we're done. And I mean, we're done for power, because it's not like having a blackout in part of the city. You have to have power to restart power. If they took 9 of them out, it'd be like sending us back into the dark ages. We are not going to restart that unless somebody was really getting ahead of this, which I'm not sure they have or not, because all the parts come from overseas. They're to rebuild these things. Now, what are you going to do? How are you going to get parts from companies or countries that hate us and want to see us fail? What are you going to do? You've got to have some preparation work done, just for the fact of, first thing comes to mind to me is water and how to get rid of sewage. What are you going to do? That you got a disease factor there that you're going to have a problem with unless you've got a plan on it. But water, getting rid of waste, and then shelter and food. And those things are critical. You don't have a plan on that, I don't know what to say. I mean, there's been enough of us that have been harping on this for years. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can eat off of, and it really doesn't take much. Water's a little more complicated, but it's a doable thing. But if you're ahead of it, it gives you some leeway to either get a plan with what you have around you, or instigate a plan. But thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. The Constitution says when the elections are supposed to be held, correct?
Election day.
Election day. It does not say that it needs to be done with computers and machines, correct?
Correct.
So I can imagine a scenario, and just hear me out on this, like maybe if there are good people, they take out the power. The Constitution says this is election day, we have to do it. And we're just going to do it on paper because these computers aren't working. Russia took down our grid, or our internet is gone, but we're still going to hold election day because the Constitution says we have to, and they're paper ballots. And it could be a good thing. It doesn't mean
anybody that votes as an illegal or somebody who does not have citizenship to vote in our elections, I think that it should be disallowed from ever voting in any election because they know what they're doing is wrong. I don't care what anybody says. They know what they're doing is wrong.
Oh yeah, they're going to be deported. And the ones that maybe the good people that have come in that came from these, I think we had this conversation. I don't know if you were there, but we talked about it at the wedding that there are a lot of people that have been brought into our country that have come from horrible places, and it would be like inhumane to send them back. But if they came into our country and they're working, they're trying to become a citizen, and they're not illegally voting, then maybe they do get granted some sort of amnesty. So
there's a lot of ways to deal with people because a lot of them came here and they were trafficked.
A lot of them,
they were trafficked or kidnapped to bring up here, especially the kids. The anchor baby thing for me is a huge problem. We really need to have some reform in the entire immigration department. I mean, think about this. People that came here 20 years ago that have been waiting to get through immigration, it takes a long time to legally go through immigration.
20 years? Wow.
20 years. And they've got houses and families and friends, and their lives were built here. Whose failure was that? That's a failure of the United States government. And it was by design. It was absolutely by design, just like the drugs in the country. You know, we were talking to Stanley before. The drugs were brought in by basically the CIA needed ways to fund their wars.
Yeah.
So there was an airline that they were flying them in, and there's another airline going right now. It's called CSI, I believe, that is involved in deporting illegal children. The children don't arrive. This is the same airline that does live human organ transplant. If you can't tell me that, you know, if anybody can't see that this whole thing is just one huge piece of shit soup to hurt human beings, to kill them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I really want to see the last receipt on what they're doing with all of these people that are disappearing. Are they ending up in plastic bags? There's a question. Are they actually being ground up? What is happening to all these people they're killing?
All these kids and indigent people that are disappearing. I think there's 800,000 or more just children that have disappeared.
A year.
Millions a year.
Millions a year are disappearing. Where are they going?
What are they doing with them?
That's right. That's exactly right. Where are millions of people? How do you have millions of people just disappear off the planet with no answer? I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on today. You can come on any day. If you want me to just send you the link, you guys can come on and we talk about everything. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
And how we solve it. I mean, it's great. We've got a teacher, a doctor, and a shit shoveler here. I mean, we can do anything, right?
A stone thrower.
That's what it is. So, well, you guys have a really great day. I'm going to bring Jalise on, unless you want to stay on. You can stay on if you want.
Thank you.
Bye, Donna.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys. I'm going to take a short break, and I'll be right back with Jalise. And let's see, who do I have on today? Well, we'll find out in just a minute. Morning and welcome to the third hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 9th day of September 2024, and we're going to get right into political prisoners in America, the J6ers. How you doing, Jalise?
I am doing good. How are you today, Donna?
Doing great, doing great. Do you have a good weekend?
Oh, I've had an amazing weekend. Out here in Texas, you know, the scorching heat normally don't break until after Halloween, and we've got some cool weather out there. I'm in long sleeves today. So.
Are you? Oh, wow. Well, I tell you, it's beautiful here. We had a very hot summer in Michigan. For Michigan this year, a lot of humidity, which we normally have some of it, but it was a really hot summer and it finally broke and it feels really good. It's just been absolutely glorious out there. So
Oh, that's so
kind of
nice.
amazing.
You know, it don't matter what you're going through when you can experience nature. It just lightens your spirit up. So me and Mark feel so blessed because we're on home confinement on a farm. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a real bad gig right there, right?
please don't allow me to work and make me sit at home and enjoy nature.
Yeah. That's funny. That's so funny. Well, I think we're really making some leeway with this J6er thing. And now you're not going to be sentenced until October. Is that correct?
That's correct. October 22nd is our new date. And of course, we're still trusting in the Lord for whatever his will is, wherever he needs us to work amongst his kingdom. And but we count every month, every day that we get not behind bars as a gift and a blessing. And so that's kind of where we're sitting and holding it. I had someone at the store yesterday see me and catch up, and she asked me, but aren't you growing weary? Like, isn't that the stress exhausting? And I'm like, the Lord has carried us through. I don't know what else to say. It don't mean I don't have moments and bouts. They're never more than a day or two before I've laid it down at the cross again and chose to walk alongside him and walk by faith. And I think as long as our J6ers can do that, they will see where God is working, and they will realize what an honor it is that they've been called to this. I mean, it's sure there's pain involved, but what an honor that we were the ones that were standing noble in character for what's right and standing on truth. And because of that, we're now on the wrong side of the law. That should speak volumes to the world, that by standing on what's right, we're on the wrong side of the law.
Right. Looks like Deborah's having a hard time getting on today. Deborah Sandoval.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm never surprised by that because honestly that happens. I'm going to have to leave here because I got to meet somebody at noon, and I really like being able to pass the football to you and have you carrying it into the end zone at the end of the program here. So I'm not going to be able to do it by phone with her today because I'm going to have to leave shortly. So, but if she can't come on today, we can always have her back on again another day. Wednesday is going to be a tricky day for me. I just want to let you know because I ended up having I have to go somewhere Tuesday night and I'll be gone overnight. So I've got to either figure out how to do Wednesday remotely, which is possible. So I wanted to talk to you about that to see if you have somebody else that could come on at 10 o'clock. You could do 10 and 11 for us. And then I can just set it up, and then I'm not going to be here. You're going to have to carry things. And I feel like I'd have it, and I might be able to jump on just for a little while, but I won't even be here in the area. So that you might be able to carry that show. I wanted to see if you were okay with that so that we can decide if that's what we're going to do.
That's absolutely fantastic. No problem at all. I have the gift of gab. I don't think I'm ever short of words.
Yeah, I think you and I do pretty well in that department. It's real funny because I watch people that are younger than us, and we're relatively the same age. We're real close to the same age. I think you're younger than me. How old are you?
I'm 54.
54. Okay, so I'm gonna be 61 this year. Close enough. But
61 this year. You're right. We look close in age.
Yeah, we're closer in age. So, but at any rate, I see people that are younger than us, and they kind of lost the skill of just sitting and talking to people.
Yes.
It's like, because they're like this all day long.
That's absolutely right. And I don't know if I can turn the camera, but I'm just going to show you out my front door there. We still have the gift of a front porch. And we get on there, and that is the old-fashioned way of Facebooking, where we spend time praying for one another, talking about the week's events, what's to come in the future. We solve all the mysteries of the world. And I think our people need to get back to that a little bit. I think that's part of where my peace comes from. Put your phones up.
Yeah, one of the things that's really odd is that when I sit down with my kids or even the kids that are younger than them, because they're all kids to me, right? Is that I'll sit there and listen to them talk endlessly about video games or things that I'm like going, well, I don't watch TV and I don't play video games, so I'm kind of out of the loop a little bit. But let's talk the Constitution, and or the law or something going on here, and it's or how to do something. And I think that I find myself quite often just going, well, that's interesting. Not really. It's boring.
They treat it like it's real life if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, they do.
Like the characters, they'll talk about them as if they're friends of theirs. And I'm like, this is a dissociative disorder. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. When the highlight of your day is how you struck gold in your video game or you killed the most people, or it's crazy.
Have you looked at some of these video games? I've passed by and watched a couple of them, and I'm like going, what would possess you to want to play this? It's like there's body parts and blood everywhere. It's like I don't understand this. I really don't even understand it. It's like I just don't get it. Besides the fact that I suck at it, it's like once in a while, that years ago the kids would get me to play something like Mario Kart or something like that, which okay, Mario Kart's kind of fun, I'll give you that, but it's not something I'm going to play more than maybe an hour every year, right? Which is why I suck at it, right? There was some other ones, Melee. There was one game, I don't remember, something Melee, right? And it was like you got Mario, you got Donkey Kong, you got all these other characters on it. I had one character I could play, and it was Mario, and I just sit there and lob like fireballs, and that you're bouncing all over the place, and I'm like, where am I? I'm like, oh, you just died, Mom. And I'm like, really? Was it glorious? They go, no, you ran off a cliff or something like that.
I never allowed my kids to have video games, and I'll tell you why. Atari came out when I was about
Pong, right?
11, 12. Yeah, Pong,
Pong was fun. That was fun.
And I got addicted to Pac-Man immediately. And it was a big thing to be able to roll it, right? You could roll the video game to where it started over the whole scenario all over again. And my skill was I could roll that thing twice. I look back and I'm like, that was early signs of addiction. And I decided that is something I don't have to bring into my child's life. You got to be 18 to smoke. You got to be 21 to drink. You got to be out of my house to play video games. Now, I did let them get a Wii once they were grown enough to figure out how to have life without a game. And so I think my baby was maybe 13 when I let them get a Wii. And by then they weren't interested. They're like, oh, I got friends. Why am I going to hang out with this? I was the worst mom alive for that. Worst mom alive, not only by my kids, but even in the community. Oh, that's just cruel, just limit their time. And I'm like, no, it creates fighting.
Yeah. And fighting. You're absolutely right. Like I didn't have a TV for my kids. We had a TV screen that we would use as a monitor for said some learning activities and such, educational things. That's what I would use it for, but we never had connectivity. So we didn't connect. I didn't. And it's like, I haven't watched TV like normal people do in probably 35, close to 40 years. I just don't watch TV. I maybe average 1 to 2 movies a year. There are a few documentary things, and there's like educational things. I like to watch engineering fails. It's the dumbest thing. And I'm like, well, why did that fail? And I'm looking at why a bridge collapsed, and I want to see the structure or that sort of thing, So I will watch stuff like that. I like to watch some things that challenge what you think about it, or that, because it can really be a great educational tool. Videos, a lot of times you can take in more information and a variety, because there's pictures and there's videos and you can see processes than a book. Even you can learn from a video as well or better than you can from a book in a lot of situations. But yeah, I was, oh my goodness, I was the meanest mom on the whole planet. I'm like,
I bet. I think you would have told me.
They looked at me like I was an alien that dropped in. They're like, what do you mean you don't have a TV? I'm like, what's the point?
And now you have very intelligent kids, right?
What's that?
Now you have very intelligent kids that
I'm convinced, yeah, they are. It's like my oldest was graduated from high school at 10 years old, and he started college, like attending college at 12, and they called him Little Doogie Howser. Well, you know what? If you get your head out of the stupid stuff that just distracts us from this world, there's a million things that you can find out, and it becomes an adventure. I mean, you can start all over again if you didn't ever learn math or if you sucked at it. You can go back and start looking at even video series. Put your time into things that count and go, oh, I didn't know that numbers work that way, or, you know, that sort of, and you take an auto mechanics class, figure out how to change a tire, learn how to can or cook something and such. You know, I mean, there's a million things that you can do with your time. Go to a neighbor, find out if they have some difficulties. And just by talking, not asking him what's going on wrong in your life, not that kind of way.
I got 5 minutes. Tell me every problem you've got right
now.
Yeah,
that's like go. I'm timing you. I mean, that's not what we do. That's creepy. But I mean, it's like just going and hanging out with them, and you know, invariably people will tell you what's bothering them. And if you're willing to listen, I had a book. I know I have it around here somewhere. My library collection of books is like crazy, right? I'm a book person. I just like books. There was a book that I got years ago, and it's called The Awesome Power of a Listening Heart. Let me see if I can look it up. Let's see, let me copy and paste this into my video on the 10th Amendment that I put up there this morning earlier. I'll put that on. Let's see.
Listening is a lost art. I struggle with it. I see so many other people struggle with it. To listen, yes, because think about it. Most of society is so eager to figure out how they're going to respond to what you've said that's what they're thinking about. It's just a lost art.
Now let's see. They've got ear. Let's see if it's the same one. No, it's here. It's on Amazon. It's an old book. It's a great book. Here you go. The Awesome Power of a Listening Heart.
Interesting.
It's a great book. It really is. I probably got it when I was in my 20s, so I've probably had that book for 40 years. And unless I loaned it out to somebody, which I quite often do. I bought the first book of Enoch for a friend of mine, and she's got that now, and so she's reading it because I read it years ago, and I'm like, here, take it. I never know if I'm going to get them back, so a lot of times I just order them. But that's a really great book right there. It's amazing. And you know, it's like when you listen for information instead of listen for response, it's a whole different mindset. And I honestly think that it's a skill set to just listen. Tell me more. You know, that's
right.
More. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. You know, that's a great way to weave that into any communication you have. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. I don't quite have my hands around. Tell me more about this subject. What do you know about this? Asking questions. And it's not that, you know, most people just have never been asked questions like that. So they're like floored with it. Somebody, you know, gives a crap or is, you know, you really care? Well, yeah, I kind of do care, you know, and yeah, I care. I'm curious.
And look at how much you're taking in for knowledge and information, not to mention sourcing your information. Because when you find out they were that deep in their knowledge base, when you thought they were that deep, right?
Yeah, I tell you, and then you think that somebody really knows something, and you go, well, they're a little off base on that, but so are we all. Nobody has all the information, and so fair with each other. Well, hey, it looks like we've got a visitor here. Hey, Deborah, how are you? You made it.
I'm fine. Yeah, I did.
Welcome to the party.
Hello. I just got schooled in listening skills, so I'm going to try to implement some of them.
Hey, I'm on here for like 3-4 hours, you know, a day, and quite honestly, you know, the other thing is the conversation skills, especially when you're in a public venue like this. People are freaked out. They're like, the first time everybody comes on, they're like losing their minds. They're like uncomfortable and stuff. I'm like, we're just sitting down having coffee. Pretend that we're all having coffee here, and just be your authentic you. And that's all you got to do. You don't have to have all the right answers. They don't have to be in the right order. You know, you don't have to say all the right things. You just got to be you. And that's all that matters. And that's how we sit down as friends. There you go.
my
Yeah.
coffee
Look at her. She's got hers ready. You know,
I've succumbed to like iced coffee. You can't see it, but I've got iced coffee here.
I've been so tickled just since doing this segment, because I never even thought about someone being uncomfortable on a podcast.
Everybody is the first
and
time.
everybody is. I mean, they'll get on. There people that I know that I have been interviewing, that I know their story. I know what they're going through. I keep up with them regular. Some of them I've lived with. I've let them live on my farm. And lo and behold, they'll get on there and it's like deer in the headlights.
Yeah, it is. They're kind of like this. It's like, what do I say? And they're afraid to say the wrong thing. And it's like, I always, it's like once you get on here once, the first interview with people is usually a little awkward because there's a certain amount of uncomfortableness. I'm going to tell you what, the first time General Flynn told me, Donnie, you got to make videos. And I was like, no, don't tell me this.
No, scare me.
And it was like, okay, I got to make videos. I literally put the camera outside one of my horse's stall and I got a tripod and I'm like, no, it was a tripod. Yeah, that was a tripod. And I started and I'm like, every time the camera came on, I was like, I don't know what to say. And I did this for 2 hours and it was like, I turned it off and I'd sit there going, I don't know what to say. And I was just dying, right? Totally dying. And finally I was like, and I do it again. 2 hours. I had not 1 second of video because I just choked up every time.
I do that. When it's a video, it's like retake. Finally, I'm like, I'm sick of it. And I just spew it out there and you get what you get and I walk off. That's
exactly what I did. So one day I went into our observation room and I just said, okay, all right, Brandenburg, you can get this thing done, right? In fact, I had this little sweater vest on at the time, I believe. And I turned the camera on and I'm like, I'm never going to look at the videos that I make. I'm just going to say and I'm going to move on because I've got other things to do. I'm not going to look back. And so I recorded something. Well, then I cheated a little bit on that because I did look back because I want to see. But I recorded something and I hit send. And I hit it before I had a chance to criticize myself. I just hit send. And then when I went and I looked at it, what I posted online, I was like, well, that wasn't too bad. I'm like, I can see where I can improve, but it wasn't too bad. But it was terrifying for me. It really was. But, we got a country to save. We have people that are being killed every single day by these monsters. We have people that are being imprisoned, like the J6ers. And if we don't get out of our comfort zone and say, and throw our little egos and our fears in the trash and move forward, no matter what, move forward in our imperfect selves, but the best we can be. We don't have to be perfect because those people that look perfect on camera, they're not real. Most of them are not real. They got filters on. I don't have any filters on. This is a no filter venue. I don't
know how to do a filter until this thing. And then before the show, I saw these settings waiting around one day and I'm like, hey, look at this. And then I realized, oh, all it's doing is making your image more and more hazy.
Yeah, that's what it does. It makes it like that. But there's no filters on this to give you that Instagram model look.
Right.
We are what we are here. And we're going to say what we need to say because we're just normal, regular people who want our country back. And we're also here, honestly, as those, as people who serve God first and foremost above everything. God is our focus. And we love him. We serve him. We serve his world. We're not responsible. We kind of are responsible because we are a brother's keeper. I'm going to give you that. However, with that said, we're here to serve, to protect, to stand in front of threats, to try to do the right thing when nobody else does. There's no running for the corner being afraid like what happened in the scamdemic that went on. And the church is closed. Shame on any church for closing out there. Shame on you all. It's like, that's exactly where Christians need to be, with open arms, with the doors open, say, come on in. We welcome you in here. We're gonna do this together.
I think that was, I'm not one that I blame the churches for everything because Christ says we are the church. So if the church failed, you failed.
Correct.
So,
they're trying to close our churches. They're trying to close them because if it wasn't from that, it's, going to biblical texture. marriages between a woman and a man. And so my pastor said that he's in fear that they're going to try to have him do same-sex marriages. And at that time, he'd have to follow the Bible, and they're going to try to close him that way. I mean, they're using whatever they can to take us away from God.
You know, they can close the building, but they can't close the church. The church will never die if the hearts of people don't die. You know, within the church, one of the biggest things I've been seeing is they seem to focus too much on the New Testament. There should be a balance, because all of that gives you the picture of God. You know, Jesus came and fulfilled the law. He did not replace the law. And so when you take all this stuff in, you realize these people got this image of just love, love, love. And they
Gentile Jesus with a lamb on his foot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's like, I'm sorry, but I'm completely not done with Gentile Jesus with a lamb on his foot.
Yeah. They are only seeing one side of God and thinking their only job is just to sit there and love. No, we're called to confront. And for all of you people that are like, Christians aren't supposed to judge. Wrong. You should read the Bible. It will educate you a little bit, because we are called to judge. We're called to judge our fellow brethren. So if you're signing up and calling yourself a Christian when you're not, then don't get tiffy when us Christians call you out on not on activity that's not Christian-like, because the fact of the matter is we are called to. In fact, it would be really, I believe it would be sin for us not to, because we're not acting under the obedience of Christ.
Well, I tell you, there's a time and a place, and there's a way to do this nicely. This comes back to communication skills. I had somebody in my life at a point in my life who was really someone that I grew to very much love. A good friend, right? I'm not going to put any more on this. But this person got herself so tied into, I'm going to say, absolutely irresponsible sex. And it was a horrible time. And I watched the way this person was completely abused. And everybody around us was kind of laughing at her bad choices and the things that she was doing, because, I mean, she was totally out of control. I mean, totally and completely. It was every night a different person. And we're just like, what are you doing to yourself? But everybody was just laughing at her. And I finally sat her down. I said, okay, we're going to have a talk. And I said, and I sat down with her. I said, you know, and I told her everything that was on my heart. And I'm like, I love you. You are on a crash course with absolute destruction, and you're breaking my heart, because none of these people give a rip about you. They don't care about you at all. And you don't care about them at this moment in time, because you're using them. And I sat there, and I mean, I laid it all out. And I'm going to tell you, this person came back to me. We're still friends. Back to me later. And she said, you know what? You were the only one that had the guts to come out and call out what I was doing. She said, you were the only one that actually loved me. And sometimes love comes up and says, you know what? I very much care about you, and I love you. And I am going to tell you that you are hurting me by watching you go to your own self-destruction. That's what calling things out are. It's not calling people out and saying, you know, you're a bad person, you did something right. That's not it. You call them out in love and say, I want the best for you. I really want the best for you. You're on a course for your self-destruction and the destruction of everyone around you. You have no idea how many people you're hurting by destroying yourself because they love you. You need to clean up. You need to do the right thing. And God put these gifts in you, and the world needs you. And you wasting time on self-destruction isn't part of his plan. I'm pretty sure you can put yourself into doing things right. And I think that's she should probably talk about the skill of calling people out sometime. But I'm going to be talking more and hijack this, because you and I started talking before Deborah got on, and I'm glad you're on, Deborah. I'm going to go disappear. And I have to go to a meeting, and I'm just going to let me know when you're getting ready to go off, and I'll have somebody stop the broadcast. But you ladies have a wonderful day. God bless you. May God's favor rest richly upon you all. And I'm going to go back to that. If you want to find me, go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And we're going to keep going in that direction. And you're very loved. And I'm going to say it. God bless you. God bless you all and everyone whom you love. And God bless America. These girls are going to take over from here. Jalise will say the prayer. And I have a meeting to go to, because once again, it's not billionaire Donna Brandenburg. It's working Donna Brandenburg, who's got to go to work and still goes to work, so that I can pay for this to get this out there, because there's not enough hands on deck that are willing to work. So I'm gonna jump out, and you guys have a great day.
Thank you for all you do. God bless you.
God bless you.
She is amazing and awesome. She gives us this platform every single day, Monday through Friday. And as you know, she's a busy woman, and she has made time for American Patriot Relief to come in here and bring in January 6th, because lives are at play here, and laws are getting changed and manipulated, and people's lives are in danger. And soon it's going to be at your door and in danger. So hearing these stories help prepare you so that you see it ahead of time. One thing you'll notice in all of these stories is certain patterns. Oh, I lost her. Hopefully she'll be able to make it back in. But there have been patterns of the way that they have used the law against us. That is what we're now calling lawfare. Not law against us as in we violated the law and now there's consequences to it, but lawfare in that we don't like what you did, and we don't like that you had the freedom to do that. And so therefore we are going to twist and turn, and kind of like an alligator that gets on a bite of something, where he just starts twisting with us held in his grip. And we're at his mercy until he decides to let go. But I've got to remind the viewers, we serve a righteous God, and everything they're trying to do is backfiring on them. I do see that on the regular. I see it in mine and Mark's story immediately. And so I want to use the opportunity, and hopefully Deborah will be able to come back on. But I want to use the opportunity to kind of give you some patterns to look for. It's super critical that we know the Constitution first and foremost. It's critical that we understand how our government is supposed to run according to our Constitution and for our rights. Most people my age and younger are thinking that the government is supposed to be over the states. They're not. The government is supposed to be subservient to the states. Their only job is to uphold what the states decide on and make sure that no two states get in a battle with each other. For instance, we wouldn't want Mississippi to decide to not let North Carolina transport goods over to Texas. There's things like that to look at in this situation. And yet our government has come into play and decided to go after individuals. They should not have any hand on individual affairs. That should be between the state and the citizen. So what you're seeing with January 6th is all of that violated. The FBI, federal agencies, should not have any jurisdiction on private property, only on federal property. But yet they're coming onto our properties. They're raiding us early morning and pulling babies and children out of their homes along with the wife. Regardless of whether they're dressed or not, or dressed for the occasion. I mean, for instance, we know of January 6th defendants that got pulled out in sub-temperatures in their pajamas and left there for over an hour while their spouse got scrutinized by the FBI. This is unjust treatment. What did the wife do to deserve treatment from the government that way? The citizens of America, I'm not sure they're thinking about that very question of the violation of rights with those living in the house with them. You don't give up your rights as a citizen based off what someone else's actions were in your home that you probably had nothing to do with. That's the atrocities that we're seeing. There's a story. Listen, I'll share what I know of a story with Guy Reffitt. He was one of the first ones, I believe he was the very first one to go to trial, one of the first January 6th defendants that were arrested. They used his children to wire them, children that cannot sign a contract, okay? They're not of legal age to even sign a contract for themselves. And they wired the child inside his own home to get evidence of his words against him. Because don't forget, it wasn't the actions of the January 6th defendants that upset the government. It was their words on social media. And so they have used our words time and time again against us, even when all the evidence pointed to the fact that there is a breakdown somewhere because the narrative being told does not match the evidence. That happened in my own trial, in my own case. Okay, I straight up told the world. I exaggerated on Facebook. Okay, I made it sound bigger, my involvement bigger than it was. I'll own it right away. I'm assuming, because I've seen it happen more times than not, kind of like what Donna says with filters, that we use filters to present ourselves in a different way than we really are. We also tell people we weigh 10 pounds lighter, or that we're 3 inches taller, or whatever the case may be. But because of that action, I'm now looking at 9 years in prison, because all they cared about were my words in my trial. My words that I said on Facebook. I want the viewers to understand that. It wasn't my actions. It was my words. My actions spoke for themselves in all the body cam footage, in the aerial view of a camera that was placed on me and my husband during the attack. And yet, even with all the evidence discrediting what 2 police officers said on the witness stand, I got convicted on all charges because of my words. So that is a 1A right. I mean, that's our First Amendment right. We should be able to say anything we want, believe what we want. Even if it's not true, we have the right to believe it. We have the right to say it. That's why people argue is one believes one way and one another way. And we used to be upheld by our Constitution for that. But at this point in time, we're no longer have a Constitution to support us. And that's where the American people come in. That's why everybody needs to be taking a close look at what is happening with January 6th defendants. I literally had 22 federal agents show up on my property with an MRAP. For you ladies and some gentlemen out there, an MRAP is a fancy name for a tank. Okay, it doesn't roll. Well, I think it might have rolled on tracks, to tell you the truth. But it has the turret. It had a man up there with a M4 automatic weapon pointed on me. I'm not much of a threat. I'm a grandmother. I have significant health problems, which requires me to have a handicap ramp. And they pulled their tank onto my handicap ramp to arrest me. Now, I was more fortunate than most January 6th defendants because they didn't bust down my front door, aim guns at my 2-year-olds and try to, drag me out undressed. They didn't do that. I was fortunate enough to get a phone call, and it was late enough in the morning that I was dressed and ready for work. And, but what right did they have? What was so threatening about me that they couldn't call me up and say, Miss Middleton, I need you to come to our office at this location. You have an hour and a half to get here. Why could they not do that? Well, it was all for show. It was all to annihilate our character and our integrity. And because after all, their plan would not work if they were not able to show us as bad people. So that's what they showed to the public. But lies can't withstand the test of time. Or as some put it, time and truth walk hand in hand. And so over time, now the American public is starting to realize that that this was all a sham, because they got to know the J6ers. We didn't stay quiet. We did not accept the lies that they told about us. And we decided at all costs, we're going to warn the people, the American people, our brothers and sisters that we love dearly, that their lives are at stake now also. So, with that said, I see that Deborah's trying to get back on, but I'm not sure Donna's going to be able to do it. I think she might have already cut out. But with that said, the true character of the January 6th defendants have come out, and people have seen that they're normal people. These weren't people with a rap sheet. These weren't people that even had prior engagement with law. None of us knew how the court system worked. Okay. We'd never been in trouble with the law to know how the justice system worked, how the legal system worked. We didn't know any of it. And then after it all transpired, we found out all these rights were violated because they shouldn't have been out on private property. They shouldn't have extradited us to DC. We should have had a jury of our peers. I'm here to tell you, there are no peers for me in DC, because I am from the South. We're from the Bible Belt. We're mostly Christian, born again, believing, hellfire and brimstone Christians that openly talk about our faith. There's few that don't go to church on Sunday. It's actually an unusual thing in my community to see someone that doesn't attend church regular. And there are nobody up there like that. They're not conservatives. They're 97% liberal Democrats that believe that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did a fantastic job. They're sitting there on welfare, hoping that they can afford their next meal for their kids while thinking that. But for some reason, they still think that. So the very fact that I have different viewpoints, there were no peers of mine on that jury. So with that said, you can't exactly say we're a jury of the peers. And so let's look into the jury selection a little bit and how that transpires. We had 87 pages of jury instructions. Now, I want to challenge all of you. When's the last time you read an 87-page book and remembered every detail of it? That probably would make it very hard for a juror too. So right off the bat, they expound to a level on each one of the charges, to a level that they probably could not interpret and hold on to. So they were able to take the instructions back with them. But then they dismissed them on a Friday. They did not sequester them, and they could go and do whatever they wanted. They could look up all the social media they wanted. They, of course, are instructed not to, but, who's looking? So they could then read everything that the government had put in the news to try to tear down our character. And then here all of the January 6th defendants are with no way to defend themselves. There's no social media. There's no news media presence that's going to defend our character and let us put out our story. And so all they got was all the negative when they did that. Another thing that I want to point out to the viewers, I say this all the time. If you lived in an apartment complex and there was a murder in the courtyard, you didn't see it, but you heard all the ambulances rush in. You hear the people wailing and crying and freaking out down below. And you see all the lights flashing everywhere. You see the place taped off. And now you feel fearful because someone was murdered in your courtyard, right? Imagine if they called the people in the apartment complex up as jurors. Because that's exactly what's happened for January 6th defendants. See, in their city, they were told that there was a riot. Now, I would even argue that there wasn't necessarily a riot. I think it started out a mostly peaceful protest. But But imagine living close by the Capitol. You're hearing them lock down the city. You're hearing them. You're seeing all the flashing lights. You're seeing the National Guard going down the streets with guns on their shoulders. You're in lockdown. You're told not to leave your house at 6 p.m. and beyond. The city's been shut down. You're hearing blasted everywhere that somebody's been shot. And all of this is occurring. And now you're a witness to it, aren't you? Now you're a victim of it because you feel unsafe in your own house, in your own city. And I share this because, again, that is exactly what happened in Washington, D.C. They may not have witnessed it firsthand, but they've witnessed it secondhand in some way. They had a loved one in the Capitol. They had friends that worked in the National Mall at some place, and they've all felt violated. And those are our jurors. So with that, we've got Donna. Donna's probably not here. She was gracious enough to give us this platform. But we do have Deborah back on here. And before you get blown out of here again, I want to hear your story.
Hi. Well, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Where would you like me to start?
I want to hear from you. What happened to you on January 6th? Why did you go there? And what did you do? Not what they're accusing you of, because that don't matter.
I don't care what they accuse me of because it's lies. So I went in December, and I went with my 2 boys in December. And we went down there. It was such a wonderful experience. And we felt the presence of God around us. Everybody was like-minded. It was such a beautiful, awe-inspiring moment. And it was patriotic. It was just beautiful. And there was so many of us. And then when I got back, my son is in the Marines, one of them. And he was like, Mom, I've never experienced so much patriotism. So
I agree. It was
beautiful. And so anyway, we decided that I felt compelled to go down again in January because we just came back, but I felt like I had to go. In fact, my fiance couldn't go, and I said, well, I have to go because I feel like I have to. It felt like I was being called to go. And
I hear this from so many January 6th defendants, and I've been one of them. We were called to go.
Yeah. The same spirit that was there before, I don't know, I just felt like I was being pulled in, and it wasn't a bad thing. I just drawn in, and I know God was speaking to me. My son went down, but he ended up going separately because he brought my brother, who's a veteran, and he's disabled, and so he had to bring a special vehicle for him. Anyway, they drove down separately, and so I got down there. And when I got down there, same crowd was there, just beautiful. I was videotaping everything and stuff. And my son came. He's like 4 or 5 hours behind us, so he's trying to find me the whole time. Well, I watched President Trump speak, and he was going to go to the Capitol, and he said peacefully.
Now, were you near the Washington Monument, or did you make it into the ellipse?
I was down by the ellipse, between the Washington Monument and the ellipse. But I was up by the fence because they kept us like a couple football fields away from Trump. They wouldn't let us get close to him. So I was over by the fence. They only let so many come in, and I'm sure that was because they didn't want the crowd, anybody to see how big the crowd was. But I know there was over 3 million people there, at least. It was
easy.
Enormous.
They laughed so hard about how many people were there.
Oh gosh, when I seen that Trump was leaving, and he was going to go up there too, we started walking up towards the Capitol, and from you could turn right and see people, you could turn left and see people, and it was just beautiful. It was quiet, and everybody was so happy to be part of this. It was a peaceful group, and nobody was causing any problems. And when I got to the Capitol, I was surprised because I've never done anything like this, gone up and spoke out loud my opinion. That's what I thought we were going to do, maybe pray. So we got up to the Capitol, and they were letting us up on the steps. And you can hear somebody saying, "Wow, look, they're letting us up on the steps." And my friend said, "Let's go take a picture."
I said the same thing. I was excited. Never would have thought that they would do something hurtful to us.
No. And so my friend said, "Let's take a picture on the steps." So I went up on the steps, and then all of a sudden the crowd just got really enormous, and they started heading up. And I thought, well, I guess I'm going to get up close and personal with Trump. I'm going to go watch him speak. And I like to get up in front because I like to hear what he's saying. So I'm going up there, and it's getting so packed that you really can't turn around. But I was like, okay. But then when we got up closer to the Capitol, it changed. And it changed, and it got loud, and all of a sudden there was smoke in the air. It was tear gas, and there was things being shot through the air, like great big footballs, white footballs of something. And all of a sudden there was people being carried down. I have a video of an elderly lady being carried down because she was up in front, and she got, I don't know what was going on, but I assumed it was tear gas. And you can hear me saying water, water, because I do have some nursing in my background, but anybody would know water. So you can hear me saying all this stuff, and I immediately jumped into helping. And then we were being shot and attacked outside, which I didn't understand why, because we weren't there. We weren't armed. We were this group that was calm and happy and praising God again, and we were being attacked. And then these voices, people, they had to have experience, because of course I'm not experienced in combat or anything, and we were being attacked. It was like a war zone. They were saying, brothers and sisters, you need to rise up. The only way to get through this is together. Stand together. And so at that point, I mean, there was no way of going back. But after seeing what I did, I decided I was going to stay with my brothers and sisters and help, because I can't leave them being hurt up here. There was no way down anyway, but there was no way I was going to leave them unattended. I was trying to help as much as I could. And these voices kept telling us, flags forward, which I don't know what that means, but I assumed, okay, let's go show these people. I don't know what was in that gas, but it didn't make me think logically. I thought, okay, they want us to show our flags to show that we're Americans, show that we're here in peace and everything. So I got my flag, and my fiance was with me, and we stood there just standing there with our flags, like begging them to stop, But then I called my son had called me and said, "Mom, where are you at?" Like he was doing the whole way. And I don't know what I yelled to him, but I said something along the lines, they're telling us that we have to take the Capitol because they're shooting us. They're shooting us, they're attacking us. And my son said, "Turn on your camera." So I started videotaping everything, and I got a lot on camera that I had to go through because it was just a state of confusion. And
I'm surprised that your phone worked. My phone wasn't working.
I don't know why it worked, because it didn't in December. I don't know why it did. My sister, people were calling me on FaceTime while I was in the Capitol, because when we got to the Capitol, they were actually shooting us from inside the Capitol. That's where it was coming from. And so you're going to make up your mind on what's going on, but it looked like they were using the Capitol to protect themselves and shoot us, because that's the only place that stuff could have came from. And then, later on my video, I seen people standing in front of the windows waving for people that were already in the Capitol when we got there to come out the windows. And then the door came open, and it didn't get pushed open because it would have went inside. The doors opened and came outside. So I know that people were trying to push the doors open, it would have went inside, but it did popped open.
That's a good point. I've never heard anybody make that point. I hear them talk about you couldn't drive a tank through those doors, that they were magnetically locked. I've heard all that. I've never thought about the fact they open to the outside.
Yeah. And I think that there was a little bit more than tear gas in that, what they put in there, because my son said that he can't, it's foggy. It's foggy. And when I was in there, I felt like I was on a cloud. And my sister's saying to me on FaceTime, Debbie, don't steal anything. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? We're not stealing anything. And I showed her all the stuff in there because I seen the statues for the first time. There was a red cord. They were showing us where to go and everything and telling us where to go. And I was videotaping it all. And I just felt really elated, like, wow, we stopped them. We stopped them. But what did we stop? We don't know what we're.
One of the
I'm just
well-behaved
loopy.
insurrectionists that stayed behind the ropes, in between the ropes.
Yeah, there was a red velvet rope to our right, and we were walking down the hallway. Now, I've never been inside the Capitol. So not only was I confused about where to go or anything, but this was like, it was beautiful. It was stuff I've never seen. And I love my country. I love my history. And so I'm taking all this majesty in. It's beautiful. But then on the way back, I heard a lady crying, stop, don't take that. And it was in this little office, and I was looking in there like, what's in there to see? Because I thought we were going on a tour, and I thought there's nothing in there to see. But at that time, I kept getting calls, which I can't record at the same time, but I took a picture, and there was a lot on that picture. It was a live picture, but there was pictures that were propped up on chairs, and a guy grabbed a picture and was walking past me, and I said, stop, don't steal that. And he looked at me like he was going to kill me. He looked down at me because I'm short, and he walked across the hallway, opened up a door inside the Capitol, went inside with the picture. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. At that time, I just felt like it came to me, Congress had to be involved, because I don't understand what I just seen. He didn't run with the picture. He was inside a door. Then I went down and I seen these people, these police officers, they were just standing surrounding this one place. And I thought, well, maybe that's the interest where we're not supposed to go by, because I'm still thinking, okay, we stopped them. They're holding whatever they're doing, and they're letting us stay in here, just, while they do their thing. I'm still thinking, because, I don't know what's going on. But these guys all of a sudden surrounded the cops, and it looked like this is where I get a little bit hazy. Looked like they were trying, like they were punching, but I have boys that have fought, and they don't do their fists like this in circles, like they're pointing at somebody. They actually make contact. These guys never did. But I jumped in front of them and I told them to stop. That's not what we do. And they just looked at me, and I went over to a police officer that was standing there, and I said, I don't know who they are. I'm really sorry. We're not with them. We don't do that. Because I was really confused about what was going on. We don't do that. And I've gone to Trump rallies. I've gone on parades. We don't have that spirit of evil. We don't attack. We don't fight. We're peaceful. And I called that right, because those people weren't with us. And the police officer I was talking to, I spoke very clearly to his face, and he looked at me like he didn't know what to think. I can't figure out his look. I think he was overwhelmed. I don't know. But I sure would like to see that body cam, because I did call it right. Those people,
Now,
there was
why
no
did
punches.
you not get to see that body cam? That would have played into your case because you had conversation with him.
They gave us thousands and thousands of hours of videos to sift through. There's absolutely no way that we had the time to look through it. I was arrested on February 19th along with my son. And
Of 2021, right?
yeah, 2021. I thought we were like the last ones, because it'd been a month. And I, like you, everything kept getting postponed, and I kept thinking, this can't go on because nobody's listening to the truth. I have video evidence of what happened, but nobody's listening to it. I even called everybody I could think of, trying to get my video out there, and nobody responded to my emails, my phone calls, nothing.
Oh, no, because we had the plague. Listen, I tell this, January 6th defendants are the modern day Scarlet Letter. We're the modern day lepers.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees with us in private, and thank you for your service, and you're my hero, and you're right, we should have been there. And then publicly they act like they don't even know us.
Oh yeah, I know. I even had a service guy, because I'll talk about my story when I find out where they're at, because I'm not going to argue the point with people that don't see what's going on. I'll pray for them, but I'm not going to argue the point with them. I know what happened. I
Isn't
know
it
100%.
weird that they're the expert and they weren't there and they're like, well, I saw it on TV, and I'm like, I was walking through it. They made a camera production for you.
I have the actual videos, and it's not of any actor. It's with me on it speaking, and it's of the people there. Yeah. I don't entertain that, because if they're not open to discuss it with witnesses, because we are witnesses to the truth, then they're not open, because they are getting fed lies. And shame on the news media for doing that to our country.
Yeah.
Shame on them, because even some of my friends have been fooled. Even my daughter has been fooled and stuff. I mean, by her brother being imprisoned, it's broke my daughter's heart, and she can't speak to me because she thinks I'm delusional. She's been fed by
Wow.
people. Yeah, she's been fed by people on the left side. She just turned 18. I haven't seen her since all this, and I understand.
Yeah,
and
well,
I'm praying.
while you were being a mother and working and trying to keep everything pulled together, these tyrants took over our school system
Yeah,
and have been indoctrinating our kids into this liberal communist agenda and telling them how wonderful communism is.
Oh
And
gosh,
teaching them how not to be able to use their own brain, their own discernment, their own investigative skills to look this stuff up and see that communism has destroyed every single nation it ever come in contact with.
Well, and they're breaking families apart. They're teaching the children they don't need to listen to their parents.
That's right.
Because I've always told my daughter, I said, if somebody tells you something different or speaks bad about me, run, because I am the one that will protect you with my life. But she came home one day, and I didn't understand it. It was right after this. She came home and said, "Hey, Mom, I think that when a child is born, you shouldn't tell them what their sex is. You should let them grow up and make that decision." And I didn't probably approach that conversation right, because I said, "And who is your God?" But I didn't sit down and say, which I encourage other people to, where are you getting this information? What makes you say that? I wish I was prepared enough to say that, because she believes that. She believes that you should wake up and be able to decide if you want to be a boy or a girl that day. And I don't know what else she believes, because January 6th took away her best friend. My son and her were so close, and she wants to blame somebody. And I'm telling you, you're never going to make anybody happy in this world. You're always going to have people that don't like your faith. They don't like who you were. Maybe they're going to pick your life apart. And those people in my life took this time to really feed my daughter full of hate. And she came to me. She says, "You're the bad one. You're the bad one, because look at what happened to Salvador. Look where he's at."
So I want to explain to the viewers for a second. Hold your thought.
Okay.
The people don't know you. So I know a little bit about you. So what the viewers need to understand is Deborah went to prison for January 6th. So did her son. And he is still in prison. And just a beautiful person. You've got a beautiful son. I would imagine your daughter is too. Definitely beautiful genetics. And my heart just breaks for this circumstance, because as a mother, we are called to protect our children. And I almost took one of my children with me. I invited my kids to go with me. I almost took a nephew with me. And I just praised the Lord that the cards fell right, that it wasn't going to happen for them, because I'm a mama bear. I am one of the most protected people you'll ever see over my kids. I bet you were too. You never would have put them in that situation, which shows your patriotism and respect for your country, that you trusted it was safe to go there to protest, to stand on what's right. You never would have thought your government would have attacked you, or you'd never, ever, ever, ever would have brought your children to that circumstance.
Well, my son was in his 20s, and he was going to go regardless. I mean, he lived on his own. He's a responsible child. He told me what was going on before I knew what was going on, and then I started researching.
Right.
But I sure wouldn't have answered that phone, and I would have, because he came to help his mother. I was at the Capitol being attacked. He was down at the Ellipse still. And he was trying to find me. He came up to the Capitol to find me, and he walked into a whole different scenario. I mean, it was totally different from one side to the other. I had veered off, so I was at a different
Because
location.
it was set up. The east
Oh,
side
yeah.
was all calm and collective. They put all their energies and all their infiltrators, all their FBI,
Oh.
CIA, and DHS agents on the west side to create that look of a riot. You're right.
Well, my son, by the time he got up there, I'm just going to say what I seen on video during the trial. The police officers weren't on our side. Some of them, most
No,
of
they
them,
weren't.
they were
I
attacking
was
us.
attacked by 2 of them.
They were attacking people. They were standing behind people and taking their sticks, and they were poking them in the ribs. And when my son got up there, and of course he's trying to find me, but I don't know how it happened. I know that he got pushed around a lot. He's a little guy, but he went in the Capitol and he was helping the other protesters that were in there because they were on the ground, and it showed it on the video at the court. We're watching this police officer stand over people and beat them, punch them. I seen my son get knocked down in the crowd, and it took my breath away because he's not that big of a guy. And like 10 people were in front of him, and he came back up, shook his head, and then he pushed the police officer off of those unarmed protesters because he was beating them. Now, the judge told us, don't speak about anything around this. All I want to talk about is the action of him pushing the police officer. So it didn't matter that the police officer was attacking the people on the floor and beating them, and we're unarmed. And these are women and children. There was even a dog in there, but there's women and children. There's a woman clinging to a guy, and a police officer, she had her arms like this, and she's saying, please help me. Then all of a sudden you seen her get dragged down into the abyss of people. But we can't talk about that.
Right.
I was seeing that in Washington, D.C. on video. We can't talk about that. All we can talk about is my son pushed a police officer. He pushed him off of attacking innocent people.
And you have a legal right to defense of others, but you're right. Those judges aren't going to let that get discussed.
No, absolutely not. And my son's attorney decided not to go with a jury because he figured the juries were stacked against us. One of his attorneys was a liberal guy, and they did an analysis, and they said that the juries down there are all stacked against us, and we were praying. I prayed so much. I prayed. I know God is real. My faith has grown. I was in an empathy in my religion before this happened, and I've grown. God has done things in my life in the beginning that even made my fiance's faith turn and get stronger, because we called on him and he knocked at the door. I mean, he is real. I know I'm suffering right now because, like you said, I can't protect my son. Yeah. And I was in prison. And I don't want everybody to think like you might face it. You're going through the same thing I did. We thought it would be over. Prison, you can survive it, but there's so much sadness in there. There's so much sadness in there. And we are law-abiding citizens. I never even, just what we see and know going into a prison is very overwhelming. And I walked in by myself. But the biggest thing you have to fear is the system. I mean, I know there's some bad eggs in there, but I'll tell you what, even a lady that's in there for murder that I was in there with showed me how to hold my posture right, and she was kind. And they helped me get settled and make my beds and everything. And they helped me out more than the institution, the counselors and everybody. They attacked me. Right. The counselors all attacked me. They wouldn't give me a bed. My bed was probably, I've measured it, it's probably this much of material. And I was sleeping on like metal. They put me on a top bunk, and I had a bruised rib when I went in. And I had vertigo, which happened because of the sprays they were putting in the air that day. But they put me up there, and I had to sleep on the floor because I sent them an email and I said, I'm not climbing up there, because I fell off of it and bruised myself. And I slept on the floor for the first 3 days because I refused to climb up there. It's not good conditions. It's sad. You wake up with nothing to do. There's nothing. They don't give you anything. The classes they don't let you get into them very much. And you're really in this disbelief because of the fact that you know you don't belong there.
Right.
You don't belong there.
You
And
didn't think it would ever actually happen. You
Yeah.
still have so much faith in your country. I
Mhm.
mean, I really see where I'd put a lot of gods before my God. I had a lot of idols that I was worshiping that I didn't realize, you know, in my country, my family,
Oh,
my spouse.
I love this country. I believed in this country. Still love the country that was founded, but not what they've done to it.
Right.
Right now, I'm still in disbelief for what they've done to us and what they're doing to our children and the rest of the country, not just us.
Right.
They're tearing us apart. They're hiding it. They've been hiding it from us for years, you know. And the elderly don't know because they're just used to believing the news, and they don't know how to use the net and everything like that. So they're not researching and stuff. And it's just sad because they love the country too, and they think they're
They
serving
do.
their country.
And they just, you know, they grew up with the Democratic Party being the blue collar party,
Yeah.
and they think it's still standing for what they thought it stood for. And because see, I work with elderly. That's what I did for a living. And I mean, they would hear me. They would, because they knew my character and they knew, hey, something's up. This isn't adding up at all. And I went right back to work, like not with the same company, but all the same people that I was helping in the community, I was still involved with. So they received me back. They knew there's something not adding up. But you're right. All they watch all day long is CNN, and they don't realize there's a problem.
Yeah, and then they see the younger people see Hollywood. Hollywood's been bought. You know, they're just not looking underneath all this stuff and behind all this stuff. Our government is supposed to be for us and by the people and for the people. How did they become so rich? I mean, where did they get their money from? They didn't sell all these books, and that's a lie. But I guess I'm just still trying to cling to God in my life, and I'm trying to get through just because every day I lay my head down, I know where my son's head is laying, and
you
even
know how bad it is.
And Audrey said is where I was at, and there's so many more going in. And I'm just overwhelmed by the fact that it's still going on, and I never ever in my wildest dreams thought this would take 4 years. You know,
I didn't either. What happened with statutes of limitations? Because now the evidence is so disintegrated. They think they've preserved it, but no, they've only preserved the prosecution side of things.
Oh yeah, they're not letting us
we can't get our videos out. We can't expose the truth. Nothing's happened, and everybody has stood back like we're lepers and let it happen to us.
When I went to court, they told me that if I didn't take a plea, that they would add 50 years onto my son, and they
used your son as a pawn.
Yeah, and that they would also bring in a felony. They'd bring it back even though they dropped it. They'd find a loophole to bring it back and put it on me. I don't care about the felony, but as a mother, I don't know when this is going to end, but I can't sit back and I knew they were going after him really hard, really, really hard.
They go after the men harder, yes.
Yeah.
Now, I got a question for you. So you were only charged with misdemeanors?
Yeah, and they sent me to prison on it.
For how many months?
I was sentenced to 5 months. I did 4. There are ways to get out, so they lie to you and tell you that, but you can. I went through a drug treatment program. I don't use drugs. But you know what? I'll take anything to get out early because where we were at was insane. It's insane, and you can't deal with it. It's hard. There's never quiet unless you open that Bible. When you open the Bible, you're in a quiet space, talking to God. But yeah, I served 4 months, and the last month and a half I served with Audrey. And you know what, though? In a way, I was sitting there, and it's weird, but I felt like in some way I was serving my country by being there. It didn't feel like, I know I was in prison, but those people that were over me and talking to me, I just really honestly couldn't take them seriously because they were idiots. They were complete idiots. And they didn't even think I had a high school education, wanted me to go get my high school diploma or something. I said, I know, why would I do that? I said, why would I do that? I have a bachelor's degree. And she's like, you do? You know, and then I told her I had a misdemeanor. She says, you don't come to prison on a misdemeanor. I said, January 6th, that you're speaking of a new thing. You know, they're doing that. They don't care. They'll bend the rules to hang us.
Right. That's
But
right.
if
I want you
I
to,
mean,
I want to give you a minute. Let's talk. So you met another January 6th defendant in prison,
yeah,
and she is still there to this day.
yeah,
And I would like for you to get her voice heard, to what she, you know her well enough to know what she's comfortable with. We wanted to bring her on the air today, and we could not make that happen. Tell Audrey's story.
So Audrey, she sang at Carnegie Hall. She's an angel. She has a beautiful voice. She stood her ground on the stage when they in the courtroom. They told her what to say, and she pushed the paperwork aside, and she spoke the truth. And she said, "You know what you've done? You're destroying our country." And she spoke about everything. And when she went out, the news was there, and she told them, she said, "You should be ashamed of yourself, because you're part of this. You're part of what's destroying our country." And she wouldn't be interviewed by them. I mean, they harassed her so much when they arrested her. She was running out of the courthouse in her pajamas because they wouldn't give her a phone or anything. She had to find somebody on a phone, and she was in her pajamas running around. But Audrey is very strong. When she came into prison, I came in alone. Audrey came in with a group of 22, and I watched them come in. But when she came in, she was at the lead, and then there was somebody else at the end, and she put the people that were afraid in between her and the other girl so they could protect them, because these other people, they were young girls and they were scared. And she came in, and I was watching her, and she sort of was a little bit intimidating at first. I didn't want to go up and approach her, but I was looking for Audrey, and because somebody told me that she was there. So finally I did go up, and I said, "Hi, I'd like to meet you. My name is Debbie. What are you here for?" And she told me, and I said, "You're my sister. You're my sister." And we started telling our stories to each other. Audrey was up there, and she started being attacked too. And she had I don't know if she had the flagpole or if it came to her, but there was a police officer laying on the ground, and this crowd was coming up. He had been knocked down somehow, and he was young, and she looked, and he was terrified. So she put this flag up to block the crowd from being able to trample the guy. She saved his life, because if she didn't do that, he would have been trampled. And later on, this guy testified against her in court, and she told him, you know what I did. I saved your life. Why aren't you speaking up? You know, but she was being attacked in there. If you look at the videos of her, you can tell that she just is under attack. That's all I can say. But
who was that police officer? Do you know or willing to share?
I don't know the officer's name. I don't know if she probably does, because he was in court. But
I'm betting. Reason I wonder is because we know that in that Upper West Tunnel where there was such intense fighting, Officer Fanone went to the ground, and he was protected by several men and then lied on the stand. And
isn't that nuts why they would do that? Yeah. I don't get why. I don't understand it when she really did save their life, because you would have been trampled. It was sandwiched. All those people, they were pushing us in there. You know, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, I was on that west side too, and I was up front like you, and that was brought up in our trial is, why didn't you leave? And you can literally see two people up against my husband's back, holding him into the police line, crowd completely behind us, someone at my back holding me forward. And it's like, where do you see an escape? And I kid you not, when they can draw on the screen of our videos during the trial, he literally drew on top of people a green line. I'll never forget it, because he's like, here's an escape route. Here's an escape route. And he drew on top of people drawing an escape route. And I'm like, does the jurors see this? Like, he drew on top of people.
They block it out, and it's just crazy. It's crazy because they're not seeing the truth laid right. It's weird because it's right there, but it's also that fight or flight. you know,
That's right. It's
are you going
human.
to abandon? Are you going to abandon the people that you're standing by praying and let them suffer? Because I have a video of people getting carried down, and a white-haired lady, and she's being carried down. You know, all those people were being attacked. We were being attacked, and at that point, I know that I was tired of being attacked for my vote. My vote is sacred. It's my vote. My voice is my voice. I have the right to speak it. And for people to tell us to shut up and to
Right.
suppress our vote, and then when we see evidence that our vote was stolen, to come out and question it, and then they're beating us up
Right.
on our Capitol grounds.
Deborah,
on our
so you took a plea. Did you not have a trial? Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, I didn't have a trial. They
Okay.
were going to try me and Salvador together. They
Okay.
did everything to keep us from having a fair trial. Even
Yes,
my
they
son's
did.
witnesses that were flying in, the FBI called them up because Salvador had just purchased a gun, which everybody did. I mean, Biden was trying to take away our guns. And so everybody's saying, you better get a gun because once they take them. So he got a gun that he had never fired. And his cousin, who owns a business, flew in to testify about Salvador, how he's a good worker, how he's a good guy, and everything. I mean, he had so many witnesses. They called him up and they started talking to him, and they said, does Salvador have a gun? And he said, well, yeah, he did. He just got it. He hasn't fired it yet, and blah, blah, and everything. So then when it came time, they were asking what they took out of his apartment. They didn't mention the gun. But then they told the witness, when he flew to DC, when he landed, if you testify, we're going to bring in the testimony that he had a gun and use that against him. You'll do more damage. So he decided not to testify. And then they brought it in anyway, which
Yeah.
having a gun, there was no guns at the Capitol. We didn't bring any guns. Nobody did.
No.
But they
And
were using that against us.
absolutely anything they could. And, you know, I didn't even bother with witnesses. I knew that this was nothing but a show trial, so I didn't waste energy on it. I went with public defenders. I didn't bother battling back and forth. I would talk to my attorney, tell him what I think. A couple of motions I held my ground on because we had an attorney that filed a motion without even running it by us.
Yeah.
And the motion was like selective prosecution because Trump had not been indicted yet. What kind of crap is that? And I totally would have never went for that. So we had to get rid of that attorney. But, you know, it's just stupidity playing out in the courtroom. It's a show court. And I know it's hard to believe for the viewers. That's why I keep bringing these cases in so they can keep hearing story after story of the similarities. Because you can't believe that our judges, I mean, I saw a beautiful Holy Spirit on my judge.
Mhm.
I hate to admit it. I really do, because he is not acting obedient to the Lord.
No.
He is definitely in an act of rebellion, but I saw it. The guy
I
is
prayed the Holy Spirit around the judge. I had to watch because I was praying and my hands were going like this because I was praying for the judge to be surrounded by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like you had said, so that's weird because I've never done that before, but I was praying for it. But there was not a spirit of God
There's
in there.
something holding on to them. And if it's not a demonic spirit, which I see on many of the judges, it is definitely fear. And, you know, fear is a liar and fear is very controlling. We don't call it a spirit of fear for no reason. Okay. It's a demonic spirit.
To go on that, so when I was sitting in the courtroom, because I did study the law, I have a bachelor's degree in political science and law. So when we had to make several trips to Washington, D.C. for these trials. Some of them were there, some of them were on video. The attorneys were in the room talking and everybody got up and left. And I stayed in there with the attorneys to listen. And then I felt like something was compelling me to go to, I felt like God spoke to me. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, to go speak to the prosecuting attorney. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. So I went up there to him and my attorney's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I went up to him and I said, hey, can I talk to you, to the prosecuting attorney? And he's like, all smiles coming up. I said, I just want to thank you. And he looked at me and he's smiling. And I said, and God bless you. And he shrieked. He pulled back like I burnt him. And I was walking away like, oh my God, what did I just see?
That was a demonic spirit.
I know.
You
but my
literally
attorney-
passed the demon.
Yeah, do you know what? My attorney said, Debbie, did you see the way he reacted when you blessed him? And I said, I didn't even know. I called the spirit out. I said, I'm so glad you seen that because that's just crazy. And then during trial, the judge had said it was getting around Easter, and he said, "Oh, we can have it on the sentencing. We can have it on Easter." He said, "Nobody believes in Easter anymore." He said it out loud, and I wanted to say, I do. There's so many times we wanted to speak, but if you speak, you look aggressive, and they're looking for us to be aggressive. They want to
Right.
prove that we're bad because you know what? Yeah, I could have walked and turned around. The door opened. I went in. In fact, I wanted to go in because I figured we were stopping what they had done. We were overcoming these bad people that were attacking us. And I was celebrating it when we got in. I was like, yay, we stopped it. We stopped it. And when we left, we were mortified to hear what they were calling us.
Yeah.
Because
We
that's
got back to
not-
our hotel and we're like, what? We
I
turned on
know.
the news. We couldn't believe it. A totally different story.
Totally different. Totally different. I like I said, my sister and her friends were on FaceTime. They seen me in the Capitol just walking around. One said, "You were just going do 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 walking around." Yeah, I was, and I was looking at everything and talking. I have video, but in between them, every time I was on FaceTime, my video would come out. But when those police officers had those people in front of them, I was on FaceTime, and I told the person I was talking to, I said, "Can you videotape this?" And she said, "No." I said, "Okay, I got to let you go because I got to videotape." But at that moment, I decided I wasn't going to be one of those people that stood back and watched a crime occur and videotaped it like an idiot. I was going to try to stop it because I didn't like what I was seeing. So I didn't videotape it. I jumped into action and I jumped in front of them and I said, "Stop. They're on our side. Shame on you. They're on our side." And then I went to the police officer and I said, "I'm sorry. I don't know who they are. They're not with us because we don't do that." I know
Did
the
they
spirit of
allow
good
that
people.
in the? Oh, well, you didn't have a trial, so okay.
No, they wouldn't allow. We couldn't find it. They gave us so many hours of video. It was buried. I don't even know if they really released it or not, but it was buried in there. We couldn't find the supporting videos on the cams. If they let all of it out, we might be able to. But I went through hours. I was only allowed to go through what my attorney sent me, and all the attorneys were overwhelmed at what they had to go through to find evidence. It was just too much, too
Right.
much, and we didn't have a lot of time. I mean, they kept putting the court date at one time, then changing it, and I was praying that all this would be resolved, the truth would come out before I never thought I'd be in this time.
we would all still be in the big middle of this far down the road.
No, but there are people that are waking up.
I'm ashamed of our nation for it to be.
I am too. Well, there's people that are gonna have to deal with the fact that they were ignorant to what was going on and they didn't listen to the other side of America because we have never been violent. They called us the silent party. I was independent, but I knew enough to know that one was the working party. They said the other one was the rich or whatever. I don't know, but the silent party. Okay. Why are they silent? Well, because we pray. We don't do violence. We pray. But here we are, two parties at the same nation. Why aren't we coming together and talking about what really happened? Why aren't they listening? I mean, I've seen violence on TV. I've seen Antifa, which I know is there. I've seen so many things, and they're not listening to the people that have been peaceful. I have friends that aren't listening to me. My own daughter won't listen to me.
Right.
I just don't get it because in the end, they're going to know what's going to happen because God will win. God will win. And they're going to find out how wrong they were, but they not only let us down, but they let their country down when it needed them to stand up and their voice to be heard. And because
when I monologued earlier, that was what I said. It's time and truth walk hand in hand. We do not have to justify ourselves because the Lord will justify us.
Yeah.
And we've just got to wait patiently. I don't know what it's been like for you, but the Lord has so clearly told me time and time again, stand firm. That's all He's asking me to do, stand firm. So that's what we just keep doing. We keep standing firm. We go about our life as usual, and we're going to let Satan do as Satan does. But my Lord has already won this victory.
Yes, I'm back. I was back to work right 2 weeks after I came back out of prison. I was lucky enough to find a place that kept me on. I had to tell them what was going on because, of course, I was going to prison. Because I lost another job because of January 6th. They seen my picture on the news. We were all over the news.
Right.
And they called my boss and said, did you know you have a writer working for you? And they ended our contract. So you can put whatever you want into that, but that's what happened. And then I did get this job, and I'm blessed to have it. But I got to tell you, sometimes it's hard because I pray, but with my child being attacked, I am his protector, and I can't do anything for him.
We can join you some in that. Let's talk about Salvador a minute.
Okay.
Would you have I know we can get to him by patriotmailproject.com, but can you tell us which prison he's in, his name, and ask that we write letters to him?
He's in Minnesota, Sandstone, Minnesota. He's got the same number as me, 3087. It's on bop.gov. If you put Salvador Sandoval in there, you can get his number. I don't want to give the wrong number out.
Right. I will look that up.
Minnesota.
But you tell us about Salvador for a minute.
Salvador Jr., I was blessed to have him. I was told I wasn't going to have any children. And then he came along, and he was a blessing from the day he was born. He was wise, and he has eyes that are from heaven. He's always done good by people. When one of his fellow students and his friend couldn't even afford a graduation, his cape and everything and hat, my son paid for it. He didn't tell me he did this stuff. He paid for it so he could graduate. He's always been the go-to for his friends. If they didn't have something, Salvador would loan it. He would let them come and stay with him. He always supported them and helped them. And he's had a lot of people wrong him, not pay him back. One of the kids, he gave his motorcycle. He sold it to him. The kid didn't pay him back. Salvador's only thing that bothered him about that was that he didn't talk to him. He said, he's my friend, and he didn't talk to me. But Salvador was also staying with my mom in the basement. He was renting it because she needed help. My stepfather was dying of Alzheimer's and dementia. And my mom is a very frail, she's 82 now. And so he moved in and paid her more rent than she wanted. And he did the yard work and everything. And during the night when Papa got up and he couldn't walk and he fell, he would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and carry him and put him back into bed.
Mm-hmm.
My son was just a blessing to this whole family. He's smart, he's wise, and he's not quick to anger. And if you need somebody to talk to, he's a listener. He's not a big talker, but he's a listener, and he knows God. He went to church with me and stuff. He's always been a good son. And he stood his ground when I was begging him to take the plea because I knew what they were doing. I didn't want to take the plea either. I was even begging him to tell me what to do. If he wanted me to stand my ground, I would, but I can't do it without him saying it's okay to get 50 years attached. And he said, Mom, you have to make up your own mind. And he said, I will die for my beliefs, Mom. And I had to deal with that when they were taking him away from me because he stood his ground. In fact, when they asked him why he should go home during sentencing, why they should allow him to go home, what would make him think he wouldn't run, he said, because I'm not a coward, and that would be an act of cowardice. He just spit in the devil's eye because the devil wanted him to beg for his life, beg, well, I've got this and I got this. Instead, he said, I do not fear you. I'm standing my ground. Yeah. I've never been so proud of my son. I gotta say, I'm trying to put it all in God's hands, but as a mother, it's hard. It's very hard.
So how long did he get in prison?
7 years.
Oh my gosh. What was he charged with?
The assault on a police officer. He got charged with 1512 too, but they're not, even though the court took the 1512 out, they're not doing anything because they said if they try to let their sentence down, they'll charge them with more stuff, which they will.
And they've done. They did it with Joe Biggs recently.
It's crazy. When they first arrested me, the felony charge was because they said I lied to the FBI because I said my son was not in the car with me when I went down to DC. He wasn't, but they were pulling up videos from December when both my kids were in the car. And they were saying, yeah, he was in the car, and they had videos. They were showing the videos, and I knew I wasn't lying. Well, finally, they figured out, oh my God, he wasn't in the car with her. I mean, I had everything to prove he wasn't in the car. So they had to drop the felony charge. But then they later on were finding a loophole to bring that back up. How can you bring that up when I have evidence? He took his own truck. He got his truck stuck in a garage all night long. It was stuck down there, and I was gone. But they just want to see, they want people to see their lie. They don't want them to hear the truth.
That's
they don't
right.
want them to hear
They're covering up, and they do not want the truth out. You're right.
Yeah. Salvador chose to keep going back in there and helping the people that were on the ground. In fact, he made a TikTok video or something that says there's still people in there. And he went out to get his air back and breathe because he was being saturated. And then he went back in to help these people. He was trying to help the people we were standing next to. Salvador's not a coward, and neither am I. I mean, we're facing a giant, but he's not bigger than our God.
I'm very proud of you, Deborah. I am proud of the person you are. I am proud of Salvador. I tell people all the time, you cannot judge, and I see people do it, and I'm apologizing for them. You cannot judge by how someone's responding to this attack on whether they take a plea deal or don't take a plea deal. None of that matters. The fact is they stood firm on truth. They went there on January 6th with their own time, own money, own vacation time to stand for what was right for our country. And they did not intend to get in this situation. And some people couldn't be in that situation. Imagine if you left your children with a babysitter to go to January 6th that day to do your civil duty, but you're a parent first. You don't have an option to not take a plea deal. And I'm going to tell you, they add charges to you when you refuse the plea deal. Me and Mark started with 6. We're up to 9.
Yeah.
And so it isn't whether you take a plea on whether you're brave or not. You're brave for the fact that you have held to truth throughout all of this persecution. And look at you still boldly speaking about what happened that day.
Here's the fact of the matter. They have it stacked against us. The courts are stacked against us. There's no law. There's no God in those courts. Right now, we have to deal with what's going on. Nobody, unless they've been in this position, can stand there and judge somebody, because I was mad at people for taking plea deals. But when you're sitting there and you're looking at, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of time. I'm going to do a lot of time. How am I going to get out of doing this? Because it's your life. They're threatening you. They're in total control. So you either make a deal or you stick your chest out and be strong. And God bless those people that can do that, because they're serving a lot of time. And frankly, I actually honestly would, it might be easier if I was still there, because of the fact that I suffer not being there, knowing my son is there. When I lay down on a pillow, it's hard for me to go to sleep because my son doesn't have a pillow, and I love my child and I know what he's going through because I was there. And I mean, you can make it there. You can make it anywhere as long as you walk with God, and God will get you through it. And we're praying for everybody that's been arrested, but you have to go into court and know that no matter what, you're going to be found guilty.
That's
either
right.
Through a plea or by being attacked by them, because they're not going to look at the truth. They're not going to listen to you. They want a plea, and they're going to get it no matter what. The truth will not come out because they will not allow it. They're not even allowing people to see what's going on with our country. People don't know. They're certainly not going to let us come out in DC. They have more control out there.
That's exactly right.
We're a little bit of what's been going on with this country, but it can happen to everybody. If it can happen to me,
we've got 72-year-old women sitting in prison for protesting an abortion clinic. Okay. We've got a 72-year-old woman. I don't know where she's ended up, but had charges on her for posting a meme. Not
I
even
know,
one
yeah.
she made. People, I hope you're waking up to this. So, Deborah, you have done fantastic answering several questions for me, which is, you know, what happened to you that day? What has Christ done in your life through this? And how has it affected your family? For final closing, I want to know, where are you at now in your case? And what is your plans and hopes for the future?
I'm on probation still. I'll be off in October because it'll be a year. I've had a year of probation after I got out of prison, and I'll be off that. And then hopefully I can go see my son. That's my ultimate goal right now. I want to see my child. I haven't seen him in almost 2 years. I want to see my son. My future is really tied up into this. I mean, I'm hoping to move on, and we're going to sell my house and move on, get out of the city and stuff. But my future is pretty much tied up in this because my child is there. And all the Americans that are suffering, I suffer with them, and I pray for them every night. But right now, like, it's just tied up in this. I can't see beyond it.
Do you ever see it? Because like I don't. I see this being the rest of my life until I draw my last breath. Do you ever see anything in your future that won't be about January 6th? Are you trying to move on?
God will make this right. God will make this right, and we will all be lifted up for what we've done. Anybody that has served in the Bible, you know, they were lifted up. They suffered too. And I'm not saying that I can walk next to those people. All I can say is I'm suffering. I followed God, and I'm still following God. But I suppose this will stay with me. It'll also be a legacy. I feel like it'll be a proud moment in my family's history, which we need, because we did stand up for the right thing. We did go. We've answered the calling. We went there. We stood up and let them listen to our voices. It's not, they're changing it and everything, but we did the right thing. We did what we should have did, and they attacked us. They trapped us. They entrapped us. But as far as being part of my life, yeah, this will never go away. It'll never go away. But I'm proud.
You're not a victim to it. You're a victor.
No, I am proud. Yes, I am proud of the fact that I was called to do this, and that I'm getting through it. And I'm proud of my son. You know, I'm praying that he stays strong through all this. I'm proud of everybody because of the fact that we did the right thing, and they can't take that away from us.
Nope.
We did the right thing. We did it.
I'm with you. I think we're going to be in history, no matter what, even if it's folklore, word of mouth, passing down the line. I believe that we will hold true to our family name and our integrity. You know, I struggled right at first because my dad was a Democrat, but he was a beautiful Christian. And, you know, a long, long line of strong, powerful, praying Christians. And I just thought, I have dishonored my family and I've disgraced their name. And I'm telling you, ever since I had that thought, my father has come back just in spirit. I've felt him 100 times over say, "Oh, baby, I'm more proud than I've ever been before." And I will stand on that to my dying breath. And whatever the cost, it will be too little if it saves my children's lives.
Yeah.
And so I just keep looking at it that way. But I see a legacy of an American hero, of a patriot, of a founder to bring our nation back to its foundation. So, and I see that for you too. You have been beautiful. And the fact that you're out of prison, you could move on, not look back and be like, "Shoo, glad that's over." You haven't done that. You have stayed in there to be a voice and a support for, you know, for Audrey. Audrey, is it Southard?
It's Southard, Audrey Southard.
Y'all look these people up. I tried to do it through Patriot Mail Project. I think they're having website issues. Y'all go and look these people up and write them letters. As we've got Salvador Sandoval, which is her son, and we've got Audrey Southard that is her friend.
She's in Alabama, Aliceville, and
Aliceville.
Salvador's in Minnesota.
Yes.
And you can look them up on bop.gov and
Yeah.
find out. Just put their name in there. Audrey really needs some help. She doesn't have a Give Send Go. I mean, we do too. They froze my son's funds, and they fined him. They froze his funds and took $2,000, which he didn't have. So now he owes them $2,000 because of running an investigation. But they're fining him.
And that is
$500.
not unusual. The listeners need to hear this. So it is not that unusual for the BOP to steal or lose money and never be able to track it back.
Yeah, and he has to pay $500 a month towards the Capitol, like rebuilding the Capitol or whatever. And I think its fine was 27, but we didn't even destroy the Capitol. It was destroyed before we got there. We got there, and I have the videos.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't
anyway,
matter to them.
they've
I didn't
taken
go
his
in,
money.
and
They've
they're
taken
looking
his
to
money.
find me.
We're fighting just to get it open because commissary, I'm just telling people that are listening, commissary is something that they do need because the food there is horrible. And that way they can at least have snacks in their lockers. They can have clothes to keep warm, gloves in the wintertime, clothes at nighttime. You only get this really stiff uniform when you're there. So you need a t-shirt or something to sleep in. And to go outside and walk in, you need tennis shoes because they give you these boots that weigh like 10 to 15 pounds. It's horrible. So even to buy a cup to drink out of, they have to have the money to do that. Just anything they need, they have to pay for it. And medicines, they don't give you the medicines you need. Some of the medicines you can buy on the commissary, but then again, you have to have the money to do it.
That's right. And it's very expensive. In fact, I've heard it said it is more expensive to live in prison than out of prison.
It is. It is. It is. I was there. I was there. Spent a lot. And then anybody that is going to prison, if you have another person that's there from January 6th, I passed mine on. I gave Audrey everything I had because you have to have a locker on your or it's
going to be stolen.
Yeah. So I just passed it on, and I took out bare minimal with me because I didn't really want to keep anything anyway. Yeah. But I left it there for her. But I would encourage anybody, to help in any way they can, because waking up and not having anything, just an empty, it's not a good thing because you at least want to get up and cook something, take a walk, do something, but there's nothing.
So let me explain to the viewers how they can do that, because if you have not donated commissary in the BOP system, it is an absolutely atrocious nightmare. They make it difficult. If you just have one person, it's usually not too horrible, but I'm just going to say Western Union is not user-friendly. So with that said, you can go to AmericanPatriotRelief.org. That is the nonprofit we've founded. And you can go to the Adopt a J6er link, and you can choose a J6er and fill out the form, and we will do it for you monthly. We do it for you. We don't keep any of the money out of it. Now, there's fees attached. Western Union charges $8.95. We charge you $8.95. So whatever you're willing to donate, it's going to be $8.95 over that. If you do not see the prisoner in the list that you want to adopt, all you have to do is fill out the form anyway and put the person you do want to adopt. They do have to be a January 6th defendant. We do not do this program for all prisoners. We do this for January 6th defendants. But we will do that monthly for you, and we can produce you a receipt upon request. We don't automatically give them because we're all volunteer ran and we get wore out. We all have regular jobs. But we will verify that we do not keep a penny of it. It is all about helping our J6ers. So go to AmericanPatriotRelief.org, and you can also hit the donate button and just donate that way. But we really, really promote our Adopt a J6er program because that earmarks it to that person for that purpose only. And if you give to our general fund, it is on an as-need basis when people contact us needing help. So with that said, I'm going to close this out in prayer. And I ask your listeners to please keep all the J6ers in your prayer. And Deborah, thank you for coming on this show and sharing your story, being so vulnerable. It is not easy to do that, and I know that, but I need the people to see who they're calling criminals. And I know they can see the heart. When I just let you talk, when you get to tell about how your life looked before and where it's at now, you know, the people can see over and over that there is a lot of innocent carnage caught up in this. So anyway, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we come before you, and as usual, we bow at your feet. Father, we humbly come before you and thank you for the beautiful nation you've given us, that you have overindulged us and spoiled us to a cup overflowing in this nation. Father, we repent of our complacency. We repent of our arrogance and our pride, that we have, as a nation, come back and slapped you in the face for so much mercy and grace that you've shown this country, that you made us the strongest nation in the world, that you have made us a superpower, a nation of Christians where we could openly worship you. And we come back and slapped you in the face by sacrificing our children to Moloch, by following Baal and claiming agnosticism. And Father, this is all just such evil and wrongdoing. And I stand in the gap as a born-again believer, Father, that I just lay it at your feet and I apologize and I ask forgiveness. I ask that this nation could turn their eyes back toward you, that the January 6th defendants could be freed from their bondage. Father, I pray for a humbling of our government, that they will be brought down from the high places, that the Asherah poles torn down, that we can once again stand as a mighty nation of Christians, a superpower, a city on a hill for all to see. Father, I specifically lift up Audrey today as she still suffers on a daily basis in a horrible environment. I also pray for Salvador and all of Deborah's family, that what the enemy has meant to steal, kill, and destroy, that it would be reconstructed in a mighty and beautiful way, that lives could be saved, that unity would be brought into this family. Father, thank you for Donna and her heart to serve and bring truth to the public. I pray a special blessing on her. And Father, we just thank you for all the listeners and for all the people willing to stand in the gap, to go into these nonprofits like American Patriot Relief and donate, that they would go and choose a prisoner and for any amount that they choose, that they would give to their commissary and help support them. They are mighty warriors. They have reported for duty. Father, we love you. We thank you for your presence, that you never leave our side. There's a fourth one in the fire. We love you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Deborah. I really do appreciate your story. I hope that we can get you on the show again with less technical difficulties. But we got the story out anyway, didn't we?
Hey, I wanted to add to that, write a letter to people that are in prison.
Yes.
Write a letter.
And that's cheap. I mean, that's literally an envelope. They don't care if it's typed. They don't care if it's handwritten.
No,
But do
it
get
means
on
a
the
lot.
BOP website and look at the prison they're in. Every single prison has rules. BOP stands for Bureau of Prisons. And every one of them has rules about how to write to them. Don't get all fancy. You can't do colored inks. You can't do colored paper. There's not going to be any stickers. You can't put the little, heart stickers on it. All of this is stuff that has been abused by prisoners in the past, and therefore it is highly restricted. So get on there, look at their rules. It's real simple to just write it in plain black ink. Don't do front and back. Stay in the margins, white paper. Your letter will get through at that point. Don't put an address label on the envelope. You will need to handwrite your address out. As long as you do that, there's not going to be any conflict for keeping things out. Don't send bookmarks. I don't know how to send cards, but a lot of places won't take cards. So just write them a letter. You don't know what to write them? Write them a funny story coming out of your life, something dumb you did that sparked a chaos in the home. Write about your dog. Okay. Life is not normal for them, and just to smell a normal home on the paper.
Yeah.
Just to hear it.
Let them know they're not alone.
They're not alone. Let them know you love them. Send them a scripture, a memory verse. Tell them the prayer that you're praying for them. There are so many things that you can write. I know they don't know your family. They're going to enjoy hearing a story about American life because they're missing it right now. Yes. So with all that said, thank you all. I hope to see you again tomorrow on the show. And I have, I've got another wonderful guest tomorrow. And so I'm going to run over here and tell you who it is real quick. Howard Richardson is going to be with us tomorrow. He just recently got out of prison, and another amazing January 6th defendant that is also a warrior for our country. He is a retired military vet. So anyway, y'all come back and see us tomorrow. And Deborah, thank you again for being on the show. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bless you.